We don't scrim, we don't practice, we don't strat, we just turn up and play the game, we do our business, we go home, or in this case, don't go anywhere because you're already at home whilst you're playing.
Yeah,
They're
stay indoors, don't open the windows.
Exactly, mate. Stay indoors, don't go, the Randy boys will be getting you. Fierce are another team equally that have been doing pretty well so far. They've definitely got themselves together, didn't have the best running quals, but have been looking very strong throughout much of the Prem so far. That for me is the game to watch. I expect Fierce to be the winners in it, but Randy's are the ones who might come out on top if they manage to catch them off guard. Like I say, though, Fierce and their organization is a team, I should say, rather than the all behind them in Fierce. Just the fact that they as a team are starting to come together more and more as this goes by is a telling sign that they shouldn't be beaten by essentially what's a bunch of gunners on the side of Randy's.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that that's going to be the series to watch tonight, especially as the other two are really come back to those kind of polarizing matchups that I mentioned earlier, where you have a team who are higher up versus a team who are very much at the bottom of the leaderboard, where you're going to expect a very decisive win from one of the teams, whereas Randy's and Fierce sat right next to each other in the standings. Yes, when you actually compare their exact, win-losses, it's a little bit different. And I agree with you. I think Fierce do have the upper hand in that. And yeah, they're a very aggressive team. And so that's going to be very interesting to see how Randy's do try to deal with that. And I think for these other two matchups that we do have coming up today, especially this first one between Crazy and Audacity, this is really going to be where we start to see if there is any fortitude left in these bottom teams, which, it sounds a little bit harsh, it sounds a little bit cruel, but these are going to be the hardest teams that these teams have faced up with so far. And they've just kind of got to pull it out and at least give it something. Maybe they want to go in and they want to think, all right, the likelihood of us winning this is low. We're going to be realistic about it. So let's try something different. Let's see if it works.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, I've also just, of course, got to throw it back to the fact that quote from you, Des, will probably stay with me for the rest of my life now. Just stay indoors or the Randy boys will get you. That's an absolute banger. But this game should be even more of a banger. Obviously, starting us off on a high here for the day. Let's start to break this one down a little bit, as we do have our opening matchup, and here are the rosters on screens. Now, who should we be keeping our eyes open for?
I think Dats is probably the one that you jump to straight away on the side of Crazy. Last week, he went 26 and 10 across both of their games. Second highest KD of the week, surpassed only by another player you should be watching out for in the form of Packbull on their team. He, for me, is the kind of the Cinderella story, a player that when I first saw him got himself killed 3 times while playing as Clash, fighting someone downstairs on border. Should never have happened, but it did happen. And since then, it's been all upwards for this guy. And I think the whole team, as a group, are just looking incredibly solid. You really can't ignore any member on this side. They all have the ability to pop off, as we saw against Secret. On the other side for Audacity, you're probably looking towards someone like Separancy or Satua. However, Ivy, or 4 as we call him sometimes, has also been pretty good as well. There's a number of names I think to watch out for who have the kind of the pop-off factor in this case. But realistically, it's Crazy that we're all watching here and saying they should be the ones taking this match 7-1 or 7-2.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's very hard to try and come up with an argument that would suggest Audacity are going to win this one. I think on the side of Audacity, I would definitely pick out Ivy, because at the beginning of the season, he was sort of the player that was picked out as, okay, this guy's got a little bit more experience. He's someone we want to be looking for. And what we actually saw after that was a lot of the teams that were playing against this team would kind of specifically go for him. He would become a real target to any enemy team, because they knew that if anyone was going to provide any value to Audacity in these games, it was likely going to be him. And so I'm going to be looking to see if that ends up happening again this week. I think given the experience, the skill of these players, and the fact that all 5 of the players on Crazy are really good, it's highly likely that that's going to be incredibly suppressed on the side of Audacity.
Beautiful stuff. Well, I think it's almost time to delve into the veto for this series so we can have a look at which map, obviously, they will be facing off here. So we can straight away delve into it. It is up on screen now, so it seems like Border is going to be the battlefield. Is that surprising for you, Des?
It's interesting how it's a pattern that we've now seen Crazy go through, where they've played Club, Consulate, Border, and now it's Club, Consulate, Border once again, this being their 6th game that they've played. So they're just going through the motions, I think. We speak about them quite a lot. They are a team that has made it into CL, or a Challenger League in this case. And I think for them, it's what can we show as a bare minimum that won't give our opponents we're facing against once Prem ends and CL starts. We don't want to give anything away. What is the bare basics we can do? Border is just a brilliant map for that because, as everyone will always tell you, it's been played to the death. It's a very old map by now. Nothing has really changed on it in quite a long time. So it's a very good map to just step in and go for a bit of a frag-heavy game and just turn it into a game of kills where you give nothing strategical away.
See those wide swing window peaks coming out?
Maybe. Just maybe. Yep. Just maybe.
Yeah, potentially. It's gonna be very interesting because when we did see Crazy play on Border against Demise, they were very forthcoming, very aggressive, which is obviously something that we do expect from this team. But the question is whether Audacity are going to be able to deal with that. I mean, Audacity haven't played on Border so far this season. They've only played Cafe. Well, they've played 4 different maps. They played Cafe, Consulate, Clubhouse, and Bank, and so far haven't had a single win. And what that kind of makes you think is they haven't been to this map yet for a reason, right? They've played 4 different maps, they've lost all of them, and they still haven't been to this one. Chances are it's not one that's high up on their list of where they think their strengths lie. So it doesn't make me feel very confident for their chances going into it.
Well, for the viewers at home, who do you think is going to be able to take the win? As we do obviously have the results coming in for the first game, that's 76.5% in favor of Crazy. So definitely quite one-sided. Throughout the night, we are going to be asking you to hit us up on Twitter. That's hashtag ESL Prem. Let us know your thoughts. But between the both of you, is that convincing of what you'd say? Crazy, obviously, with a vast majority there.
Less convincing, I think. I think they're 20% for Audacity.
Well,
I think there's a few fanboys out there. I'll say that much.
I completely agree with that. I think the fact that it is such a wide or such a large majority of people think Crazy's going to win, that's unsurprising to me. But the fact that up to this level, or up to 20.6% of people think Audacity's going to win, I am surprised at that. I expected it to be a little bit more of a narrower margin.
Yeah, maybe some players coming out of the woodwork in support. You never know. Is there a chance? Obviously, if I've got a poke and prod, how are we thinking this one is going to shape up if I do have to push you both for predictions?
It's a weird one. Border's one of those maps where you can play on attack and do very well in most of your rounds, whereas most of the maps you'd look at and say, well, if you're on attack, you're going to probably win 2 rounds and lose 4. This map does mix things up a little bit, so if Audacity are going to come out swinging on attack here, they've got a really good chance. However, I think you put Crazy on either side here, attack or defense, and they come out still looking incredibly strong. That's my worry point, I think, is where do you find their weakness on this map? It is very, very difficult to find.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. It's going to be interesting once we actually see what the operator bans are going to look like. I mean, Audacity, they chose to ban out the Thatcher, I believe, when they were... they really like to ban Thatcher, which is one of the operators that worked really well for Crazy when they were playing on Border before. I don't know if that's really going to be enough, if one operator ban can change too much, especially as a Thatcher ban is not exactly super rare these days, so this is likely to be a team that knows how to work around that. But you've kind of got to hope for something, right? But yes, there's a chance that Audacity could take it. There's always a chance, but I don't think it's a very high one.
Well, it looks like we are ready to get underway with our opening game of the night, so I'll leave it in your very capable hands and voices for now.
Thank you very much, my man. So, Gio, we are into Prem, and 2 more weeks to go, or 2 more play days to go, I should say, before the playoffs kick in on the weekend. And then, of course, there is the finals next weekend. So it's all coming together very nicely right now. It's all very compact. And as we always say, as it gets towards the end of Prem, every single game counts at this point. And for Audacity, this is an opportunity they want to try and make a claim to make it into that player position and have a chance of getting into LAN still.
I think at the very least for Audacity, it's about proving themselves as players, because they're going to want to, at the very least, know that they have opportunities, potential opportunities moving forward, even if it's not together as a team. Capitan, the first ban, Crazy really liked to ban Capitan and Mirror, so kind of unsurprising there.
Yeah, I think we'll see those 2 being the bans they take away. And like you mentioned earlier on the other side, we may see a Thatcher ban come out here. Arguably not as effective as it would be on other maps, but still quite powerful, of course, at dealing with those gadgets. But Nomad is going to be the ban away there. So more targeted towards if this does switch over to the side of Crazy. They do, it's like playing a lot of Consulate. We've seen them play it countless times before, and they will always bring a Nomad along with them. I think this is more prep towards that, just so if things do go that far. But like we mentioned earlier on, well, Crazy probably expect to take the majority of rounds in this half.
think the thing is also when you know you're going up a team who are this aggressive, you want to be able to do as much as you can to try and prevent things like those flanks and like those runouts, which is why you do bring the Nomad. Because, of course, if you feel like you're going up against a team who really are likely to outplay you, you want to give yourself as much protection as possible. And so it makes sense why you would ban out an operator like that. And there you go, is the mirror at the end. So pretty standard what we expected coming out from Crazy.
Yeah, nothing too surprising there at all. Like you say, this is just a kind of another day in the office for them almost, I think, in terms of what's been brought out. So starting things off inside Army and Archives, though, it is the go-to standard on this map that we start there. Whenever it comes to defending on the downstairs sites, we do see a lot of vertical play come in. So I think it's pretty safe to start up here and kind of get a feel about how the other side is opting to play this one out. We've seen Crazy as one of the teams I like to acknowledge and compliment for is when it does come to attacking a map, whether it's Border, whether it's Consulate, whether it's anything else, maybe Cafe being the only exception, they will always change things up between rounds in terms of how they do things. They'll attack from different angles. The defensive setups might change the tiniest little bit just to try and keep the opponent guessing what's actually going on. So here I would expect to see something a bit different compared to what maybe we've seen historically, but not enough that it's something that would hurt them coming into something like Challenger League.
It is actually interesting you say that because Audacity are almost the exact opposite, whereby they make a mistake on an attacking round particularly, they won't make very slight changes, they make very extreme changes, and that leaves very little room for them to be able to make those really key improvements required, especially on these attack rounds. And what's going to happen if that ends up happening in this map is by the time the rounds switch, if they haven't had a great attack round, then they could be so worn down that the likelihood of having a strong defensive round is going to be very small. So I want to be looking out to see at the specific changes and adaptations that Audacity do end up making.
It's also worth noting as well, you're looking back into last week, we had Zumi going 20 and 14 in the 2 games that they had last week. So despite the poor record that Audacity have had, he came in as a super sub for them previously. Did really step up for them and make an awful lot happen. You can see him right here playing on the grenade operator in the form of Buck. Very common and popular on this map because there is so much soft flooring. So you're looking really for a big game from him today. I mentioned earlier on that Satura and Sephronsia are probably the players to watch out for here. I say that because back in the first few Playdays, they played very, very well, got good stats overall. Last week, they were 2 of the worst players in the whole of the Premiership. So today I'm wanting them to step up big and really contribute towards what this team is doing.
Yeah, it's actually kind of interesting seeing MCX not being here playing, but starting to see Ivy move on forward through the security room. Got to be watching out for these angles, and this is where they're going to start being concerned because this is where Crazy, they could have really strong intel, they could be able to come around and get those angles, and that's where Audacity have to be pretty concerned. That's why we're seeing them stick quite closely together as well.
You seem quite very focused towards the southwest side of the map as well here inside of security, pushing in towards that west wall. It's the right idea. They don't want to get flanked from behind by a member of Crazy rotating in. But as it seems so far, that's not really the plan from anyone on Crazy. They're actually sitting pretty far back and just saying, if you guys want to push in, you're more than welcome to try, but we're not going to panic while this is going on. Now, quite sensibly, though, they are taking things slow and playing it quite methodically, and equally finding that Echo drone. Well, we've seen a few interesting moments in the last couple of months where Echo drones have won or lost very critical rounds. So getting rid of that nice and early with that utility is playing out big for them. I can't believe, though, that we are 100 seconds into this round, and Crazy have not yet gone aggressive to try and find a kill. Very unlike them to not try and cause some disruption early into a round.
I think they just know that they don't need to, because especially once the aggression starts to come out, and there it is, Purple and Man both falling down. Ivy's going to be feeling very good about that, but they do still have the Doc who could help the rest of the team should they need to, although I say that, and Jonka will be falling as well.
You see how much they've lost as well. Look at the health bars drop on the side of Audacity. Yes, they're alive, but they have got almost no HP left. It's down solid to the Doc to try and make this one happen. Nathan manages to find one back, but it is a 3 versus 1. And we're in a post-plant situation. We'll get himself back up as he is the Doc. But that makes things incredibly risky for him now to try and push in. Down to about 30 seconds left on this diffuser, of course, thanks to the wonderful new UI and all that it tells us. There's a lot of work for him to do here, and I don't really see a way that he manages to walk away from this one, either alive or with the diffuser disabled, and this round going across to Crazy. They've just been completely walked through for the majority of this round. Tizumi getting in behind them now as well. Surely he finds him in the back corner. Yes, he does. And that is a very nice, clean first round from Audacity. Nothing coming out of the side of Crazy there to even slow them down.
I have to say, seeing Audacity get around, this is giving me some optimism that I didn't previously have. And I think Crazy were as you mentioned, not rushing in to take any kind of an ambush onto them because they felt that they didn't need to. They probably weren't expecting IV to get those 2 kills at the start. Maybe this will make them feel like they need to up their game a little bit. Maybe they're not all that concerned. Maybe they were just waiting to see what Audacity were going to go for so that they can better judge how they're going to combat it in the further rounds. They are going to be returning to Armory lockers, so that does lead me to believe that they're thinking, okay, we know what you did that time. We're going to change up how we're doing things this time. They are bringing the Goyo now instead. That will make it potentially a little bit harder for the attacking team to push. But nonetheless, an interesting outcome for that first round.
Well, Audacity just played it very sensibly. We did say they were very bunched together on the southwest side of the top floor there and gave no real breathing room at all for the side of Crazy to even be able to find a flank or contest an angle. They were just forced to sit back and play defensively. So it was good to see that coming out of Audacity. But I do question the number of times that we saw Nathan, for example, on the dock, run across the doorway between sites, see someone very, very clearly to the other side of the shield and not manage to connect those crucial shots. It was just a bit slow and lethargic almost coming out the side of Crazy, but I imagine as this map goes on, you might see them warm in and we get back to the sort of form that we've seen previously. But all kudos to the other side of Audacity, making sure they had their angles covered. Yes, it took all 5 members to push into security to make that work for them, but they absolutely ensured no one was going to be able to catch them off guard there and played it perfectly.
Well, you mentioned how Nathan may be a bit less than impressive on the dock. Obviously, Crazy still want to have the dog on their lineup, but it is Dats who is taking on that role this time. And instead, Nathan's going to be sitting there on the Mozzie, right now playing from below. So maybe he'll be able to come back up one of the staircases, catch Audacity from behind. Because I think if that had been available in that last round, then that maybe could have been the difference between life and death. And of course, he will as well have that C4 available to him as well.
I was just about to say, having that C4 is the big thing for him here. Again, most of this map has soft flooring, so as soon as they try and go for a push in, well, might just find yourself with the C4 below you and killing down 1 or 2 members along with it. Of course, you can see from the new UI as well, we're now down about 5 drones early on for Audacity, though. Only 50 seconds into the round, they've already lost half of them, and that's some more offline as Ivy gets brought down by Jonker. This time round, it's Crazy who strike first.
It's pretty terrifying to be that low on drones so early on as well. And yes, Crazy don't have the Echo this time, so they have slightly less intel, but they are still running the Valkyrie, and those black eye cameras can mean everything. So we're going to be looking for Sertua here on the IQ to be ensuring that he can catch out as much of that intel that Crazy have available to them as possible.
And let's just clock as well the change in tack coming out of Audacity here. They've even started to look here towards the other side entirely and now trying to push in towards Office instead. And look at the aggression out of Madman here. Lay down right in front of the barricade, daring someone to try and jump their way through, or else there'll be a gun pointing straight at their face. But they aren't yet choosing to do that. He might find himself with the opportunity to go for a jump out here if he wants. But it looks like a bit of a rotation might be coming through for the side of Audacity. You've got Satua looking to take a different angle altogether, as it not is the case. I'm looking more towards the north side here. So they are trying to go for this north side to push in rather than trying to take over Office itself. Probably the right call, given that Madman is still lay down here, just daring someone to peek their head in front of this window. Yeah,
they must be absolutely aware that he is here, and that's why we're seeing Zumi actually have a look into the room. So far, nothing, but I say that, and the Valkyrie will be falling. So that is Madman there off the map, and that could give the Buck now the opportunity to start to move in, and Audacity continue on their push as they come in. Looking through that peek hole there, Sponsy's going to be going down. And now it's looking like things could be a little bit better for Crazy.
Finding that 1 kill there, that was the crucial moment, because if that had gone down, they were back out on balcony, back out on rappel, and just watching that bomb from afar, from afar, and very little they could look to do off the back of that. But now that that's down, well, we find Audacity in a bit of a weird situation where they've got to find kills to make this work for them. That could have been a kill coming through, but no. Jonker strikes with literally the nick of time to find that kill. Zumi is on a triple kill in this round, and one more will secure round number 2 for them. And suddenly Crazy have to start asking a few questions. But there is only about 12 seconds remaining here, and he's got to find this kill. He will not find it. Crazy even things out at 1-1.
The problem that kind of reminded me of at the end there was when Audacity played against Fierce on Cafe in week 2, which is they came in looking very confident, and when it came to the point that they had to start planting the diffuser, they looked a little bit more lost. And we actually saw that Sertua, he was in there with the diffuser and he just sort of stood there. He got caught out in a crossfire, I don't know if he actually went to take that gunfight or not. It didn't look like it to me. Maybe I missed it out. But the point is he didn't have anyone else nearby with him to help watch those angles that he needed, ensure that he was safe while he was making the attempt at the defuse. And that could potentially be a problem going forward if Audacity find themselves in those scenarios again, especially if Crazy are going to be able to clutch out those fights. They were at the man disadvantage for some time, and they were able to turn that around. And the one thing we don't want to be seeing from Audacity, if they hope to do well in this series, is lose that confidence halfway through a round.
Let's not forget as well that back on day number 3 of the Prem season, that was when Crazy, formerly Eminem, or at the time called Eminem, were facing up against Demise. The game ended 7-3, and Eminem, again now Crazy, took 5 rounds on the attack and lost 1 round. Lost 1 round to the other side when it was Demise on defense. My biggest fear here is that if Audacity don't get a strong enough lead in this half, i.e. 4-2, if not 5-1, when things switch over, you will just see Crazy come out in their full aggression, in the full confidence they have on attacking sides of maps. Like we've said so many times, things like Clubhouse, they are very well renowned for being a team that chooses to start on attack. How much longer that will last is a very different question. Now they're coming up against CL level teams, for example, but we know that they're very, very comfortable being on attack, especially on this map. I'm just worried that if it does come down to that, Audacity won't be able to stop the avalanche that just falls down upon them when Crazy start popping off.
Yeah, I mean, when we found out that Crazy were going to be starting things off on the defense, we were both a little bit surprised because we knew that they have this preference of starting on the attack because they feel confident enough that they can do it. Now, obviously, the attack typically on most maps is considered the harder side to start on, so that does put this extra pressure here on Audacity. And it looks like so far they have been taking it in their stride, but of course it's very, very early on still, and there's still time for things to turn around. 1-1 at this point. There is no definitive lead.
There isn't just yet, but round is early. Let's not forget, back in round 1, it was a good 110 seconds until we saw a kill come through. So things will take a while. This one might get a bit more aggressive as we are starting to push already here inside of office. You can see someone playing just round to the right spot as well. It is Jonka holding things down. You even got Nathan playing pretty close, but it's going to be the typical case of friendly fire with these Goyo shields. That's being brought down as Ivy pops it out. And immediately they've got control of office and found themselves 3 kills in quick succession. Crazy have fell apart at the seams here, down to a 2 versus 4, but they do still have the 2 delay operators left alive. You've got the Goyo and the smoke together. What a wonderful shot coming out of Jayota, though. This is it. They are finding themselves in a brilliant position to go on and win this round now into a 4 versus 1. And I called it at the start. I said 7-1, 7-2 to Crazy. Well, Audacity are already about to find those 2 rounds that I thought they might get, and they're not looking like they're going to show any sign of showing down in future rounds either.
It does really look like they've kind of knocked their heads together over the course of the last week and said, right, okay, how are we going to improve on this? Where are we going to get this? Just seeing these floors be opened up here before the remaining members of Audacity do decide to drop down onto that bottom floor. Packball's sitting here in the main lobby just waiting to see if anybody is nearby. But you can see members of Audacity in the next room. That's why we're seeing him try to shoot through these walls, but didn't get anyone in time before that diffuser actually gets planted.
Got a lot of work to do here, but honestly, the shots being hit by Audacity are really impressive. That's twice in this round that we've seen Jayota land a wonder shot to find a kill on the first bullet. Beautiful stuff. Maybe not quite the first, call it the second or third. Either way, he died very, very fast. Audacity now at 2-1 and in a very commanding position. Let's not run away with it. Let's remember, this is only 3 rounds in. There's still plenty more to come, but it is promising signs for Audacity. They are starting to look like a team here that knows what they want to do. They look very, very calculated on the attack. They're making sure that angles are covered. Yes, they are very tightly packed. They aren't really splitting apart too often, but it's working for them. And why fix what ain't broken?
Well, exactly that. And actually this time Crazy, instead of going back to the site that they lost, which is what they did on the second round, they're going to be moving on to customs and supply. And it looks like they're going to be, I mean, they're changing up the operators each time, trying to find the right balance, what works for them. But being the meat and the echoes, they're going to be going for both that intel for the enemy team, but also playing the yokais, placing them in the site so that if something like that happens again, where they're able to get in, start getting that diffuse down, you have those on your side. You have that extra information, which evidently they were lacking in the last round.
Absolutely. Well, let's see how things play out now. We are playing from upstairs once more, looking on towards the downstairs. Vertical play, like I said earlier on, a very big part of Border. A lot of it coming down to the fact that you're then forcing the attackers to have to start on the upstairs. clear out, find if there are any roamers up there, and then deal with you. The same way that we had Nathan running around on the Mozzie earlier on downstairs, it does force some attention down there. I think the right answer and the call from Audacity last time was, you know what, actually forget about downstairs, forget about the Mozzie. Let's just go and push in towards office and go for fights from there. And well, they made it work out for them. But normally you might find yourself getting caught by a C4 on an easy rotate for the operator that is playing oppositely vertical to you and get yourself caught out. So what we know we need to do here, more than anything else, is get control of this hatch upstairs. That means you need to clear out office first and foremost. So that should be the big focus coming out of them.
Well, you say clear out office, but all coming in from the other side of the map, starting to move in, and seeing these shots go up through the ceiling. One member down already, and yeah, there's the plant going down already, but he's not going to be able to finish it off before Nathan is able to finish him off. Team Kill also not going to be helping out Audacity's chances.
Absolutely not, but another shot from downstairs. Zumi and Jayata so far this game are popping, but Madman's going to shut down Zumi at the very least, and that leaves Jayata entirely by himself to try and work some magic here on the Thatcher. Got to find the kills, got to get the plant down all by himself. There's the angle, but he finds it once again. What is it with him and landing these shots today? Popping off so far. Now into a 1 versus 2. One of those, though, is an Echo, so I would fully expect there to be some drones around, as you're going to see now. It's in the wrong room, though. They don't know he's getting this down. No way has he been allowed to get away with this.
Wow.
But they have managed to do just that. They are, however, going to land on that Echo. We know this lasts for quite a long time. 7 or 8 seconds. Madman finds that shot with the pistol, and that will be the round 1 for them. But I can't believe they let that diffuser go down.
Yeah, I know, the placement of the yokai then. I mean, at the very least, he was able to fix it and kill him, because it didn't look like Jayota really knew where he was going once he knew that those remaining members of Crazy were going to be coming after him. But as you say, playing against a better team, you wouldn't want to let them get that diffuser down. And the fact that that slipped through Crazy's fingers is not going to be something that they're thrilled about, even though they were able to finish out the round for themselves at the end there.
It was a rough one. However, I think, again, the one thing you have to be very wary of if you're the side of Crazy right now is Zumi and Jayata, as I said in the round, are having the game of their lives. These shots really starting to stack up right now and dragging their team through what, you know, I think many would have put down as a very, very tough game. And props, as you said, to the other side of Crazy. Every single time they lose a round, they're coming back and winning it the next round. And what I've noticed the most in that last round was, if you recall against Demise back on Playday number 3, they actually got beaten by a rush from Demise. They just charged their way inside of Supply and Customs, got a plant down inside the south corner of Customs, and that was it. They just never even happened. They just went straight into the back corner and then pulled away and were happy to there watching the defuse. I can't remember if they went and turned that round and won that round. I have a feeling they didn't, but either way, they've dealt with this a little bit better now and have shown that they can still play from above without getting themselves caught out. So at least a minor improvement on what we've seen before.
Coming back to this more roam-heavy, can I say, for Crazy with the Jaeger and the Mozzie, and of course expect to see Madman on the Valkyrie picking up some of those kills, provided he doesn't get shot through the door again like what happened before. And of course Audacity sticking to what they've been doing so far. And yeah, you mentioned how well Zumi is doing at the moment. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he came into this season as the sub for this team. He was filling in for Sertua for week 2, now of course filling in for MCX instead, and he's been proving himself pretty well. So even if things don't go great for Audacity as far as their placement overall goes, wouldn't surprise me if there'd be a couple of teams looking out for this guy. Jonka just trying to shoot through the floor there, holding onto these angles here in Armory. And that's what we're seeing a number of these members of Crazy do, as Nathan is doing the same thing. Again, not making any rush to move into anything. They're just going to allow Audacity to start to move in before they make their move. And it's been working out for them so far, but in a couple of situations, it's felt a little bit more clutch than particularly planned out.
That's what it comes down to in most cases, and I say it every single time, I say it every single broadcast, and now 5 rounds in, I've turned around and said it. It's a game primarily that is an FPS. You hit your shots, you can win pretty much any round going. Very rarely do you come across a round where there's a capability to win without firing a single shot at your opponent. So just landing those shots can be enough. Nathan is going to land a very key one, though, onto one of the top fraggers right now for the side of Audacity in IV. I believe he was like 5-1, 5-2 previously. Either way, one thing is for sure, he is now dead. There you go, 5-1, perfect. On the other side there for Zumi, 6-0. This guy's looking pretty on fire right now. He's the kind of guy you really want to be stepping up for your team, because again, like we said earlier on, he was one of the top fraggers for them last week. Looks like he's not trying to change that trend again today.
Well, in comes a lot of those drones. We're going to be seeing a lot more pressure be put onto Madman here now that they actually have opened up those offices. Goyo Shield going down. It's going to make things a little bit harder for Audacity to move on in, but Zumi is ensuring that he holds on to that upside down rappel. And Sertua nearby as well, not yet jumping into the building, especially as Nathan is right below him, and he will be there with the C4 ready to open up anything. And there we go. C4, it happens. Sertua off the board. And without that IQ, it's going to make it a lot harder to pick up things like those black-eye cameras.
Yeah, this is the worry I think from before. I was seeing that they hadn't really got much use out of the Mozzie playing on the downstairs, whereas right now he's definitely found himself some use. And Madman, as you mentioned earlier on in the Valkyrie, going to find a kill onto Zumi, removing once again one of those big fraggers from the side of Audacity. Now into the final 30 seconds though, and the numbers advantage is sat with Crazy. Now, we've seen big things come out of these guys before, and Jayota is one of the ones left alive here, as mentioned. He's been having a pretty good game himself so far. However, will not anticipate the Mozzie creeping up the stairs, because why would you? He's been playing downstairs all round. Triple kill coming through there for Nathan. That puts us into a 3 versus 1, as Madman finds a C4 kill. So 2 C4 kills in 1 round. Crazy definitely starting to play the way that we expected around these C4-based operators.
Yeah, it's been working out pretty well for them, and this is where we could start to see Crazy taking a more commanding lead now that they've taken things over. We're in a situation now where Audacity are no longer trying to maintain a lead or maintain a draw, but catch up with Crazy to ensure that they can do that, and it's going to take a little bit of extra legwork to push themselves forward. Now, it looks like we're going to bathroom tellers, so this is going to be interesting. We've been speaking about vertical play, Des, and this is really the point on this map where that's what you're looking for.
Yeah, I think the castle is a dead giveaway in all of this for them as well. As soon as you see that, you know generally it's most often employed in defending this site, because you get yourself inside of office, you lock up much of the top floor and make sure that double wall going in towards the hallway is blocked off as well by the armor panel. You hide that room, hold that room itself, open up some holes downstairs in towards the doorways that lead in towards site, and basically make it almost impossible for the attackers to walk in without first clearing out those of you upstairs that are holding on to those key angles. But that setup might yet not come through, so we'll give it a bit of time to see what the setup is. You even saw Madman 6 pick away to playing on side of the Kaid as well. Curious to see where he chooses to electrify here as well, because the easy answer is to go, oh, it would be the hatch, but why would it be? It may well not be. You want to keep that open so you can drop down quite freely. So may instead look to try and electrify the double wall below from upstairs and make it so it's very tough for the attackers to get easy control of that without first burning out some of their gadgets.
Well, for now, he's just going to be finishing off the reinforcement on that office wall. As you mentioned before, we want to make it so much harder for the attackers to come in through there. It's going to be very interesting to see how Audacity deal with this. Want to be looking out for Jayota mostly because he's, of course, carrying those EMPs. And when you're going up against one of those electrification operators, the Zappy Boys, as I like to call them, that's going to be a pretty key utility on the side of your team.
May well turn out to be that way. You are correct. That triple wall will, of course, get electrified by the electroclaw at some point as well. There it is, up to the top, and all 3 of them are now covered off quite safely. It does make it hard, and there's a potential risk here that if you don't place it well as a Thatcher, you won't catch it, although these days, well, it's pretty easy to say, well, we have a pretty good idea where it's going to be. We even got an IQ on side, so you know exactly what it is that you're doing. Just try and roll it in. I don't think he caught it out there, but Sertua's down outside on the IQ, one of their key operators they were looking to rely on here to be able to remove these gadgets. And, well, he's down. Not yet out, though, but in a spot where they are potentially now into a 5 versus 3.
Yep, Sertua having a bit of a hard time there. And so that means even though this electroclaw has been removed, office wall still not being open. And, of course, you do have that angle being watched. Zumi also downstairs here, just trying to look up, see if there's any threat gonna be coming in. Just rotations now being made.
They really want this wall open. The fact that it's 90 seconds into the round and that wall has not yet been dealt with is really hurting them right now. So Tua, despite getting picked back up, is still going to find Nathan anyway. So definitely some value add being created there, I think. Doesn't yet know there's someone right in the back corner here, but gets sprayed anyway through the reinforcement, and Dats will find that kill from a bit further away on this castle. Worst gun in the game? Clearly Dats doesn't think so.
Sertua has really had a pretty difficult round so far. It's also really difficult here for these 2 members to walk in, as that electrification is still there, even though the wall is open. Zumi going down as well. He's been one of their key players thus far on this map, so it's not looking great for Audacity so far, but Jayota's managed to turn things around slightly by bringing down Dats.
Again, one of the big fraggers on the other side down this time round. So it's trading back and forth, but Madman is doing Madman things once more and finding himself some nice easy kills to get this one underway. It's what more Separate C can really do by himself. And generally, we know how Thermites tend to have games go for them. With 5 rounds in, he's got 1 kill on the board. He is the support player for this team. It's a lot of work to be able to bring down. Madman has been having a great game. The top fragger from last week in Pack Ball, and Jonku's playing on the Jaeger. And with only 30 seconds left to go, I know which way I fancy this round going.
Yeah, me too. Even if he is able to get this kill, well, which he's not going to be able to do. Crazy going to win out that round. And Derry, this is what I was saying, where it's going to start to look a little bit like Crazy could start taking a lead, and the effort that Audacity are going to have to put in order to claw their way back, regain that draw or that lead that they had at the very start is going to be even harder.
Yeah, this is the issue. Now we're on to the attacking side for Crazy. 7-2 is actually still a very real possibility. I thought after the first couple of rounds, we might see some positivity coming through for Audacity. They did look very aggressive, but as the rounds have worn on, it's like I said earlier on, it was kind of the, getting the motors started up for Crazy, just starting to work their way into the game. Now they're in full swing. Well, it's been really hard to take more than 1 round off them in a row, and they even went on to win those final 2 quite comfortably. So let's see how they can make this work on the other side, though, because Audacity, they are hitting those shots. If they're holding the angles correctly, they might be the ones landing shots onto the other side.
I think what Audacity need to be aware of is that Crazy on this map play a very, very aggressive attack. And by that, they do like to bring the Hibana instead of the Thermite. We've seen them bust in through the break room, open up that wall, completely clear out the 90 corridor, even if there's Goya shields in there, and just move in very quickly. They often like to keep Jonka on the Thermite further back and take those longer range kills. And when they played on this map in week 2, they really made that kind of strategy work. They were constantly ensuring that they had those aggressive openings in. They didn't wait a long time before playing the hard breach, and always had someone behind to constantly look after those angles, and it worked very, very well for them. So that's something that Audacity are going to have to be very concerned about and ensure that they always have people looking from the right rooms, making the right rotations so that they can try and mitigate the effects of that.
Still some work to do if they're going to be able to take this one away. But I'm looking immediately at the side of Crazy, and look how many Claymores they have brought. The reason they're doing this is because they know the Nomad's been banned away. What's the best way to prevent runouts and other kind of craziness coming out of Audacity? Claymores. Expect them down on a lot of the windows and the common jump out spots, just so there are no nasty surprises waiting for them once Audacity get a little bit deeper into this round. 30 seconds in and no early casualties. Only 1 drone has gone down. Compare this to the number of rounds that we saw for Audacity when they were on the attack, that they'd lost 5 drones by about 50 seconds into the round. This is already kind of showing why we regard a lot of the top teams as being very, very good with their drone economy. They do not want to lose them for no reason. If you're going to lose them, it's normally for a purpose outside of just trying to get intel.
With Ivy going down straight away, that's not good news there for Audacity, not only because they've lost that Ella, but because Ivy has been such a stellar member of the team for them so far today. This is what I actually spoke about before, where he's been pretty badly targeted. Search is going to be falling as well, and this is going to start to give Crazy a bit more of an opportunity. Just get in those drones quickly so they know what it is they're working with and start to move into the building.
The slight worry here is that you're finding these early fights coming through for the side of Audacity, and it's somewhat forced by Crazy being aggressive. But what did we see back in round number 1 and somewhat round number 2 from Crazy? They were playing quite deep back inside site. They weren't feeling the need to go out there and try and test their opponents early on. Just wanted to feel them out, get an understanding of what was going on, and sure enough, we had that very straight site push come through from the south side from Audacity that won them round number 1. In round number 2, they let the gas a little bit and said, you know what, all right, let's get someone roaming, let's see if we can cause a bit of disruption. Crazy found that to be the formula that was going to work for them moving forwards. Clearly for these guys, now that they're on the defensive side, this aggression is not going to pay off for them because they are being torn apart from below. Can't make anything work for them. Down to 1 left. The grenade was also raining up there as well, but Crazy showing their prowess on attack here with a flawless round to get things started on their attacking half.
It really seemed like they were rather thrown from that very early loss that they did have on the side of their team. Audacity, a team that we've seen do mostly well when they've been allowed to stay together very closely. They will have had an idea of what it was they wanted to do, how they wanted to execute their plan, and losing someone that early on really will have thrown them off, whereas Crazy have been much better at exploiting those situations where they've been able to get in that very early aggression, and it's worked out very, very well for them. Now, with with Audacity bringing the Capcan now, not something we very frequently see in pro play, but it does go back to what we were talking about before, where they're just trying to do what they can to prevent things like those flanks, those rotations being made, and that aggression coming from other angles. They tried with the Ella before. She carries the Gauchemont Mines, didn't work out for them, so instead, they're going for those good old traps on the doors.
That's what you're hoping for. I think the nice thing with the Capcan is we've seen teams like Fnatic use it when employing the SSG strat, as it's called on Clubhouse, for example. Idea being you discourage rushes, you discourage stupidly aggressive play. There's more drones that have to be committed by the attackers to find out where those 5 are. As soon as you spot the first one or come across the first one, you know there's another 4 waiting for you, and you need to be dealing with them nice and early on. So I think it will help them slow things down and maybe even give them some pressure in rooms where they aren't playing members, because like I said in the last round, they were playing off by themselves an awful lot. No trades came through. It was a completely flawless round for the side of Crazy. No trade potential. This is the best way to do things now, is to bunch together a little bit more tightly and just play behind these Goyo shields, play behind the smoke canisters, play behind these C4s if you can, but don't be trying to play so aggressive that you're getting yourself caught out, especially early on into these rounds.
That's really going to have to be the way for them. But as I said before, Crazy have shown in the past that they do like to target things like those Goyo shields, quickly get them out of the way, yes, but it also provides such a threat if you do have members of the defending team standing nearby them. It wouldn't be the first time that we've seen a Goyo shield kill in this round. We're actually seeing members of the team come into the map from other sides, with Nathan coming in from the west side, just droning out right now, and Jonka and Packball up in the east. So if they can make it quite cleanly into the building, then we could see sort of a pincer mechanic start to be put pressure onto Audacity.
Jert with the right idea here as well. As soon as he gets any kind of pressure onto that office window, he's not doing the madman and lying down below the window. He's just backing away completely. And even here on side of sight, they're still finding themselves under pressure here and having to fall deeper and deeper back inside of Armory. So Archive's probably going to be the point of assault here for Crazy. You can see this horizontal line just spreading across the map here, where they're basically tightening their way in around Audacity and forcing them to bunch closer and closer together. Why on earth they aren't watching towards hallway here? They have no knowledge of what's going on, and that's going to be Jert walking straight forward and getting picked off by Dats. Madman's going to find himself in a spot of bother here and has to drop away. Jonka's going to find one onto Separate C as he ran out trying to get a kill onto the down Madman. This is why these things are so risky, but even though Crazy are pushing up so aggressive, they've always got each other's backs covered. That's 2 free kills coming across them here, because the members of the side of Audacity were either greedy going for a kill or greedy trying to find space. Now we're into a 5 versus 2, and this could yet be another flawless round.
That's a really key thing you said there, and that they always have each other's backs. That means that they don't have that extra panic and pressure. Zumi going to be falling. That leaves just Sertua on the side of Audacity. He's not going to last long, and another flawless round for Crazy. And this is starting to get a little bit scary, a little bit concerning here for Audacity, who really looked like they were going to have an optimistic start to this game.
It did. I mean, the first couple of rounds were great, like, well, first 3 rounds, I should say, because they won 2, lost 1. But otherwise, things not going so well. I have a feeling Nathan's dropping that great round because of how round 1 went, when Satua and the guys said, yeah, great round, we won. Yay, a single round. Well done, guys. Make it a double. But 6 and 2, now at match point. That whole story that we told earlier on around Crazy being so strong on the attack is definitely starting to show itself.
Yeah. And interesting here that we are going once again back to Armory and Archives, and what this suggests to me, Des, is that Audacity don't feel confident on the defense on this map. And of course we can kind of tell that by what we've seen from the play, but the fact they're not throwing, you know, any craziness into the mix, there's not really much variety. They're trying the same thing over and over again. Yes, they're changing up the operators that they're playing, but that's about it.
Final round. We came into this week saying 7-2, and I think the second game we put down around about the same sort of scoreline, with the third one being the match of the week, like we mentioned. At least it's playing up to expectations somewhat. But let's look at the small things that Crazy are doing to really play out the way things have gone in attack. It's always coming down to the claymores, as you mentioned earlier on. There is no real opportunity for Audacity to make any crazy plays with things like runouts work for them. They are playing a little bit too aggressively away from sight, pushing out a bit deep, and almost trying to play the game how you might do, as bad as it sounds, as if you were playing ranked. They aren't playing too close. They did look closer in the last round, but not close enough that they were still getting themselves picked off from hallways, that they were trying to push right up towards windows, for example. And Crazy were like, well, if you're going to walk in our line of sight and we've got that area covered down, we are going to take the shot and you are going to die. It's played out that way all in both of these last 2 rounds so far. So as bad as it sounds, I'd like to see Audacity just really pull things back here. Play someone downstairs if you really want to and see how things go that way around. And they have got the Vigil playing on the downstairs now, which is a nice change. But otherwise, stop trying to hold down office. Stop trying to play so aggressive through there. All it's done so far is bite you in the backside.
Yeah, and actually seeing where Sapronsi is right now, looks like he's just trying to watch some of those windows. He has moved now a little bit further into sight, but they know that so much of the threat comes out so early on. Already hearing those X-Kairos go off, it's what I said before, is Crazy really like to play the Havana on this map. They like to get those walls open very, very early, and that straight away means that Audacity have to worry about how they're going to deal with them pushing in, rather than trying to prevent those walls being opened in the first place. Jota is going to be the first to fall, and that's that very key dock that they're probably relying on for healing.
This is what I mean. Again, they're just in an angle here where they're being watched in front of a window, and Separacy's now down for that. Your smoke has been removed, and at least they will find themselves a kill coming back. There's a Claymore going off as well. Dats had that one prepped down and ready, so from the grave, he will find himself a kill. It's into a 4 versus 2. Everything is just being taken away from Audacity here. They have had 1 kill in 3 rounds on the attack, and that is all they shall get. 15 kills to 1 for the side of Crazy in these final 3 rounds, and the story completes itself. That attacking prowess is nuts.
It looked good at the start. It did look good at the start, but it started to slip away from them, and Crazy showed just why they are sitting at the top of the leaderboard. Yes, they were going against the team who were at the bottom, and yes, they gave them a little bit of a run for their money right at the beginning, but they were able to equalize. They were able to find their footing, figure out what it was they were working up against, and ultimately, Crazy were just a bit more flexible. They were able to adapt to what was going on, change their play style. They were able to change their operators, change up which site they were playing from, and those aren't things that we can say about Audacity, and that is certainly an improvement that team is going to have to make, because Derry, like, one thing that we know about them is that they have some great players on their team.
They do, but hey, today wasn't the day.
Not enough. Wasn't enough.
Yeah, I've returned. An incredible opening game. Obviously, I got quite excited there. I got settled in. I got my coffee. I got ready for a bit of a banger. When I saw it go 2-1, I was like, all right, maybe that 20% on Twitter, maybe they knew something we didn't, right? But then instantly, Crazy, they had the core team values. That's what it came down to, especially once they moved over to the attackers, right? All of the trades were absolutely fabulous. There was just no way to stop them. If they wanted a kill, they were taking it.
Oh, you say trades. There was probably one that came through in all 3 rounds because Audacity just... I don't know what happened to their gunners because they looked so good in the first half, I thought. Again, as we mentioned earlier on, Zumi and Giotto are both popping off at different times, finding those one-shot kills around corners that Crazy just clearly weren't too prepared for, to have someone coming that aggressive at them. But it all fell away as the game went on. It was like I said back in round number 2. Let's not forget we were 2 or 3 rounds in. A lot of it was just going to be a warming up time, I think, for Crazy, and, well, warm up they did.
Yeah, I mean, that's really kind of the best way to put it, is it did feel a little bit like a warm-up. This is a map that Crazy have played before, and we've seen that they've done very well at it. Audacity haven't played it this season thus far. They kind of proved why that was, because as soon as it came to their... ironically, we speak about how it's generally easier for teams on defense than it is on attack, but Audacity actually found it a lot easier on the attack this time, and I think that's because it played to their strengths, i.e. they knew how to shoot people, but when it came to setting up those defenses, they weren't prepared. They didn't really know what they were doing. They didn't branch out as much as we saw Crazy do, and ultimately that distinguishes the top of the leaderboard to the bottom of the leaderboard, is that ability to do things like that.
Yeah, no, I'd have to agree with you there, Gio. It did feel like the defensive side is really what was lacking. You know, they had a bit of innovation over on attacking, but defensive, it just felt like they were playing so isolated. There was no real potential to work with their fellow brother man Bill on their team. And at the end of the day, it came back to bite them in the bottom. Let's break it down off the basis of this, though, obviously. As a benchmark for Audacity going up against Crazy, that are currently the top dogs in the lead, is there any takeaways from this that we can look at as positive?
I think their attacking was actually brilliant in the first half. I mentioned it at the time. They did stack a lot of them inside of security on the south side top floor, and I was kind of like, surely you want a bit more of a spread here. You compare that to how Crazy attacked. They were spread out across the entirety of the top floor, almost as if they were forming a curve around the defenders to say, none of you can move from this point. We've got everything covered off, and we'll just slowly move that circle inwards until you are completely covered and you're all dead. On the side of Audacity, it was very much like a spear. They were just saying, let's just go straight in from this one angle, go in aggressive, find the kills, look to trade off each other. And like I said, it worked wonders for them in 2 of those rounds. But that's probably where the positives stop for them, I think. You will not get many teams in the Prem that give you that kind of freedom to just walk forwards and go super aggressive like that. They will punish you with flanks, or they will punish you by winning gunfights back with trades. It was just crazy we caught asleep in those couple of rounds.
Oh, yeah. And for the most part as well, it's hard because obviously when are you going to catch them sleeping when they've got someone like Madman on the team? Talking of Madman, who was your player of the match? Let us know. You can vote over on Twitter, of course, for 3 fantastic candidates up on screen. I know who I'd be giving my vote to.
Who's that?
Madman, of course. For his dashing good looks
likes
inside and outside the server.
He did pretty well. There are a couple of times where he got caught out, but I think in spite of the fact that he did get caught out a few times, it was really because he was applying a pressure, not even necessarily by shooting his gun, but just the presence and his positioning was applying a pressure onto Audacity that made their lives so much harder. And that is something that you have to give credit to, is you don't always have to be aiming down sights at someone to be making it harder for them to make a push in any way. Sometimes all it requires is you to be positioned in the right place, and that's something that Madman was doing pretty well.
Drone preservation was a big one for me, I think, because when he was sat in office, for example, right up against that window in the northeast, I was like, surely a drone finds him out here and a grenade comes through from Buck and he's dead. It didn't happen because they didn't even know he was there. And I mentioned it at one of the rounds, 50 seconds in, there were 5 drones dead for the side of Audacity. Then when Crazy had their attacking rounds, there were 1 drone down at that time. That stark difference between those two sides in terms of how they're looking after their drones and making sure that intel is still there in the mid round, that made all the difference for me in instances like that, where a good team, or arguably a team on the Crazy's level, would have punished Madman for being in a position like that.
And if you want the potential to be punished yourselves or do some punishing, why don't you get involved with our Open Cups over at esl.im/R6UK, obviously where you compete on Tuesdays on PC and Xbox One. So room for competition where you can improve for all of you gamers back at home. For my other fellow gamers at home that have been joining me through this broadcast, obviously we do have another matchup coming up next. How excited are we for the next one?
Interested?
I would say I don't want to write it off because we did kind of slate this first matchup a little bit before we came into it, and we were both, I think it's fair to say we were both surprised, at least at the start, with how things began to go. So yeah, I'd say I'm curious. I'm not overly optimistic for Enclave, but yeah, interested.
Yeah, I think I'd summarize the same. Burning Fox is now known as Kavana Gaming. These guys are still the same team we've seen previously. They're still the same team that can upset big teams, as we've seen them bring the challenge to quite a few teams over the Premiership so far. But I think against Enclave, who are making a couple of changes and trying to kind of figure their way out, who right at the very start said, we're not here to win, we're just here to show that we belong. This is going to be another rough ride for them, unfortunately.
Well, let's see how it's going to go. We're going to be back in with our second game of the night here on the Rainbow Six Premiership after the break. Well, I hope that got your appetite ready for some more exciting Rainbow Six Siege as we're going to be carrying on with tonight's broadcast. Of course, coming up next is Enclave facing off versus Kovana Gaming, the recently rebranded, the artist formerly known as Burning Foxes.
Feels like an unfortunate name to have in this global climate right now, doesn't it?
It's not ideal. It's quite close, isn't it? It's quite close.
But I'm sure the org are just fine. To be fair, I actually had a chat to Prophet King before the broadcast today as well, just to say, you know, what's the story going on here as well? What's it like? And he's like, oh, you know, genuinely we feel really lucky. Like, they're stupidly supportive. They used to have a COD team before as well. So they have some experience in it, but still quite fresh as an org. And this is the team that they've really pinned their hopes on, saying we hope that they can do well. So it's good to see, and obviously unfortunate to hear about things that may have gone wrong with Burning Foxes. But at least this team has still got themselves a bit of org backing here to continue on the very not so much surprising, but positive trend that we've seen them on so far inside of Prem, and hope that it can continue here today.
I think this is the nice thing about Kovana, is that yes, they haven't been, you know, they haven't won every single game that they've been a part of. They're not consistently the best, but they have really shown up where it matters. I mean, especially everyone remembers they really did Team Secret dirty when they went against them on Cafe Dostoevsky, and I think a lot of people on social media were very aware of that happening, and it's been very, very good for them in that they've shown promise. They've shown promise that can be nurtured, and I think that's also a nice thing about coming into this new org, is that if they're with an org who can nurture that promise and that potential, then they're only going to get better.
Oh, absolutely right. Having that backing potential of the extra staff that could be there and the support from an organization is only going to help that stock getting pushed further and further. And they were already starting to do a good job beforehand. So this could be an incredible trend for them going forward. So why don't we talk a little bit more in depth about our two teams here? Obviously, we do have the rosters up on screen. Who are your key takeaways for this next upcoming match, Des?
I think immediately the two players that have surprised all season long is Grizzly and Gorgona from the side of Kovana Gaming. Those guys have looked very impressive so far. I'd say more surprising in the early weeks when they were the ones popping up and getting frags all around the map. People were kind of like, what the hell's going on here? Like, yes, they're players that people know about, but we've not seen them perform at this level before. So definitely the ones I think today to watch and be ready that they might just completely run away with the game if you give them the opportunity.
I think you kind of took the words out of my mouth there. Gorgona is really the guy that I'm going to be looking for. In last week, he did really well. The week before that, he did really well. Consistently getting multi-kills, popping off in situations that seemed very, very high pressure, and really just doing a lot for the team. And, obviously, you can't always just look at the guy who sort of plays entry and is the fragger and say, oh, he's the reason that you do well. But, I mean, they've all been working together very well, but Gorgona, definitely my guy.
So a lot of support for the potential cheese puns that you could be getting in there as well with the Gorgonzola or the Gorgon Ownage.
Never.
See, there we go. I already knew that would be on the cards.
I'm not into it.
No, you've rustled my jimmies now, man. It's not allowed.
Sorry, mate. I'll put them back. Don't worry.
I think another person who's definitely worth looking out for is Maunicryp on the side of Enclave, because he is the guy who comes into the team with more experience. He's definitely the guy who they're likely using for a lot of leadership on the side of the team. So a lot of their improvement is going to have to, I don't want to say centered around him. You can't put it all on one guy to be the source of improvement for a team. But when you've got someone who is significantly more experienced and has played in so many different leagues as he has all across Europe, that's someone who you sort of want to be looking to for sort of leading how your mental game is going to be, for example, especially if you've had such a hard time this season as this team have done. So he's definitely someone also to look out for, not necessarily for fragging, but just for that leadership capability.
My biggest worry for a team like Enclave right now is they are going through quite a lot of flux and making a number of changes week to week. So this week there is Thor and Rizuko in the lineup. Thor's only played 2 games with them. Rizuko, I believe, also 2 games with them last week. The big shining light for this team previously was Joe, who was running around finding a lot of opening kills for them. We remember he gave a couple of teams a real run for their money at one stage, but with him not being around anymore, the kind of burden now falls onto Runs as one of their other entry players to really make something happen. And speaking to him 2 weeks ago, he was saying, well, with Joe on side now, there's me and that being Runs and Joe, both running on the entry. It gives them more threat when they're going on the aggressive, trying to make things happen. Now that it's down to just Runs, I'm wondering who's really going to step up and help him. Because yes, Maunicryp is experienced, but he's playing hard support for these guys at the minute. He's playing things like the Thermite. He's definitely not an out-and-out fragger for them. And I feel that's probably the one thing they're missing right now, is someone who can go and make a high impact in games early on into a round.
Well, that's interesting. Hopefully we'll actually see a little bit of that once we do get into the action. But for now, let's check out where the veto is going to take us so we can see which map we're going to be running into, as we do have Coastline and Villa straight out with the auto ban. So let's break down this veto, gamers.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to see them go back to Cafe, but I suspect Enclave are going to want to ban Cafe out as soon as possible, purely because they've had such a difficult time on Cafe Dostoyevsky this season. But that is a map that Kovana have done very well on in recent history. So I'd imagine that would be somewhere that they would like to go. Whether or not that's actually going to happen, something else.
I'm not sure if I got something wrong here, but I thought the auto bans were Bank and Club, but we'll find out what that is and sort it out behind the scenes. If we are completely wrong on that front, we'll see. If these two are the bans that have come through in this case, then I think for these two teams looking at it, if you're Enclave right now, it's a really tough one, because previously I've said about them that as a team that's kind of new and coming into it, you want a very frag-heavy map, something like a Border, something like potentially a Consulate that's very aggressive near the windows all the time, or something like a Coastline. And I think stepping away from those, that leads more towards the strategical side of things, which I think for this team, yes, if you're working on these things behind the scenes, it can definitely play into strengths where you might be lacking the fragging power. But the biggest problem, I think, right now for both sides is that they're both probably lacking on those quite heavily. And yes, just had it confirmed, those are the wrong auto bans, so it will be Bank and Club that are the auto bans, and we'll go through the draft from there.
Those eagle eyes coming in hand there, Des.
Yeah, gotta watch out for these things, man.
God, you're like a hawk.
Yeah, there's a guy called Rich behind the scenes that I've been quite trusting with these bans. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, he's a bit sneaky. He's a bit sneaky. But there is the updated bans now on screen, of course, with Bank and Clubhouse being taken out. So well done, Des. That's 5 points to Gryffindor for that one. But here's actual bans that are coming through with Border and Consulate straight out.
So Border makes no sense. It makes total sense. Sorry. Like we said in the last map, it's quite frag heavy anyway. The strats are very, very similar on it. Consulate equally is a very aggressive fraggy map. So straight away, both of those are taken away. That might mean that we see something like Coastline banned in the next rotation, unless both teams really want to head towards that. meaning that things like Cafe are still obviously on the cards, Villa's still on the cards. I fully expect Villa to get banned away. So I'd say probably going towards either the Coastline or the Cafe in this instance.
Well, let's delve further in and bring on the next two and see how correct we are.
Yeah, there you go, Villa and Cafe. Going to Coastline, so you were right, it is going to be going to that more like frag-heavy map, which is going to be concerning for a team like Enclave, who no longer have one of the two players that they were relying on for fragging.
Yeah, it's somewhat concerning, and who starts an attack with this one? I think Kavana choose which side they start, and would imagine with it being Coastline, a lot of teams do have a tendency to go towards playing attack first, so maybe that's the way it goes out. Just checking, yes, that is the case. Kavana are starting on attack. So, I think the problem you might have here is that Kavana could run away with it in the first half, like we said in the last map as well, to be fair. Looking at the 3 games we had tonight, we did say the third one was the closer one. This one was the one that we thought there was still quite a heavy lean towards the side of Kavana. Maybe not as strong as I would have assumed. 36% saying it's for the side of Enclave. A lot of fans for Enclave out there, I'll say. One of the older UK orgs.
I think it's nice that they are having that support, but I think when you think about the fact that so far this season, their best scoreline that they've come away with is 6-6, and that is with Audacity, who are we've just seen them play, but sitting right at the bottom of the standings. I don't think it's too logically sound to assume that they're going to win against Kavana, who really have, caused issues and where maybe they weren't expecting to at the start of the season, but yeah, they have been. I mean, 7-4, 7-0, 5. I mean, they lost 5-7 to Crazy, but to Crazy, like pushing them that far.
No other team has kind of had a game go that close to Crazy so far.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I don't know, and on a map where a player like Gorgona is gonna likely really have the opportunity to pop off. Not sure I agree so much with Twitter on this one in terms of how large the percentage for Enclave is, but I'm always ready to be proven wrong.
Well, if you guys on Twitter want to prove us wrong with your thoughts, get involved with the rest of our polls, of course, as there is another one already available for Randy's versus Fierce. That'll be our final game of the evening. So you can tweet us in and let us know. Hashtag yourself Prem. For now, though, it seems like we are ready for Enclave Gaming to take on Kavana. I'll leave it with you two for another banger.
Thanks very much, Jackie. I think, Gio, if you're looking at Kavana right now, you're looking at this fixture and next week. So today, we're seeing, well, I say next week, it's more like tomorrow. Today, they're playing against Enclave. Tomorrow, they're playing against Audacity. You're facing the two teams that are below you and could potentially give them a massive boost to be pushing in to that top 5, top 6 spot. They're already there right now, but they might yet still climb even higher and give themselves a more favorable seeding.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly fair to say. This is the point where the real hard work of the season is done. This could, yes, be a little bit more relaxing, but you could also really go for it and be able to just push yourself up in those standings while you have the opportunity, especially as those who are sat in the middle of the table, teams like Randy's and Fierce, who have to face each other today, are going to have a little bit more a harder time.
Bans coming through pretty thick and fast. The Hibana, the first one, I don't think I am. I don't think I'm a huge fan of the Hibana ban on this map. The main reason why you want to bring her, I think, the main reason I think you want to bring her is if you're trying to assault in towards Hooker and Billiards, she's very, very good at opening up the courtyard wall, for example, so no one can play safely behind bar. It removes a very strong defensive safe hold almost for a defender, or you can use it to open up something like VIP wall. Otherwise, I'm not too sold on her usefulness on the downstairs unless you're trying to assault in towards something like Kitchen. I just think there can be better bans here engineered towards something like a Nomad if you wanted to, or a Gridlock, something that a lot of teams use to stop these rotations coming out of the defensive side.
I think that could be especially useful if you're a team like Enclave, who are going to want to make things so much easier for them as much as they can. Looks like Kitchen and Service Entrance is going to be the first site we go to rather than... No, you usually see Sunrise and Blue. I guess it's kind of down to preference a little bit on this map.
It's a real mix these days. Like, I think any of the 3 sites are now viable for a first... Well, say for a first site. Any site should be viable for a first site, because when you have that opportunity to go to any of the 4 sites, you can completely catch the opponents off guard by bringing a different setup. But what you very commonly find is that on this map, attackers will always bring the same thing. Often you'll find a double heart, double soft breach setup if you haven't bringing along a load of breach charges. However, you might see on the side here, there are a couple on the side of an Arctic, for example. So playing on the Zofia already with some soft destruct, you've also got hold of those breach charges along with the buck. So lots of vertical play, and you'll probably see this lineup stick for most of the attacking side. Might see the Lion flex to where if they do want to try and change things up there.
I think I was just looking at the Lion actually, and I was thinking Enclave just might find themselves sort of trapped between a bit of a rock and a hard place here because, you know, not only is that Nomad being brought out, that is gonna prevent those rotations. We were talking about them before, but the Lion's going to give them the exact location of where those players are, assuming, of course, that they are still moving around the map, but it's going to make it a lot harder for Enclave to be able to have the freedom that they'll really want to be able to take advantage of those key players of Kovana. You know, those players like Grizzly, like Gorgona, if they already know their exact location, it's going to make it so much harder for them to hold their own.
Need to appreciate this strat, well, attempted strat coming here out of Enclave. You can see how they've got a castle wall set up pretty much immediately on the lobby entrance. They've got shields being pointed at it from the Goya, for example, as you can see here. It's very risky and it's very spread, but it does give you an easy way to rotate off of site when the inevitable control of the top floor comes in from the attackers, and you are forced to play off site and suddenly switch into a retake-based strategy. This is one of my favorite sites in the game at the minute for demonstrating a retake, because it is so common that you will initially try and contest upstairs to slow the attackers down. As soon as they get control, everyone who is on site leaves entirely and says, you know what, if you want it, you can have it, not a problem. Access, though, is going to find a kill for himself with that C4 from below, so already finding that being put into good use. And will, at least for now, put some disruption in Kovana's plans, and that's the butt gone. That is that soft destruction remove that we spoke about earlier on. You're now relying almost entirely, in fact, you are relying entirely on an Arctic, playing on that Sophia to make something happen.
There comes out that next EOD. That's going to give Gorgona the sights he exactly needs so that he can get that kill. But Grizzly's going to be going down in return. So seeing these early gunfights here. I say early, it's over half the round has gone. Runs is going to be the next one to fall. That gives Anarchic some time to start droning in. And therefore, he'll be able to move on in. And of course, as the Zofia, you do have that lifeline, so you can provide that soft destruction that you mentioned before, but also she's got a pretty good weapon as well if you want to take on those gunfights. And Enclave, with just 3 members left, could find themselves at somewhat of a disadvantage when you consider skill matchup as well, because of course Kovana also only have 3 players as well.
About 15 seconds ago, there were 4 drones left for the side of Kovana, but now they're down to just 2 here. It's Gorgona alone with it, misses such a crucial, easy shot. And Mounty, quite rightly so, will punish him for that, and that brings in things into a 3 versus 2 here in this first round for Enclave. Now, they are trying to make stuff happen, but it's still kills coming in the other side. As Thor strikes with the hammer, finds himself a kill, gets the final one out, and Enclave will convert round 1 into a win.
Well, that was a pleasant surprise in the same way that that early round win from Audacity on the last map was also a pleasant surprise. And I think what it kind of looked like was Kovana, they were a little bit thrown off as to, you know, what ended up happening with them. They lost their buck very early, and then losing Gorgona as well. Not really that ideal for them, and it gave Enclave a little bit more of a stronger idea of where everybody was going to be, how they should go about it, and they were kind of, I don't want to say, because they weren't stacked up on the site, but they did have a lot of utility on the site, and so it looked like they were ready for whenever that push in came, they were ready to take it on. And having that weakened team in Kovana made it easier for them to do that.
Attackers need to locate
Some props given to Kovana, though, because they did about 50 seconds left on the clock say, right, stop, get on drones, find out where they are, and let's kind of reset this round back to how it was 60 seconds ago before this craziness kicked off. So rather than trying to push aggressively and playing a bit erratically and just trying to say, well, we've got to find the kills here, like the fights are underway, let's just carry on. They did pause and say, right, it's droning time, no more fights to be taken for a few more seconds. So at least a bit of acknowledgement for that. Got to start converting it into round wins.
Now, look at this. Enclave this time on their defense. They're going very, very high on the intel. They have the Pulse, the Echo, and the Valkyrie. So, yes, Kovana, they're bringing back the Lion again. they'll have that on their side. But this time, Enclave, they're thinking, okay, we're going to ensure that we know the exact location of everyone. We're not going to get caught out on those early gunfights. We're going to ensure that we're the ones who have more intel on top of the attacking team, and that's going to allow us to defend this site even better. And of course, having the poles downstairs too, you have access to that C4. So if anyone comes in through VIP or penthouse, anywhere around there, anywhere basically above where he is, it's going to make it so much harder for them to do that.
Yeah, Thor here is just really effective at providing intel because it's expected that they'll take over the east side of the map, generally in the top floor, and then push across. So he's kind of got multiple purposes here. One where he's wasting time because if they know that he's down there, they've got to try and sniff him out. Isn't really being supported by anything like a Mozzie right now, so it is a pretty free opportunity to get some drones in, for example. But the key thing is that him being here again provides the opportunity for C4s from below, intel of where the assault is coming from, and he has that kind of late round flank potential here they've got to be very, very careful of. You can even see him pushing all the way up towards service entrance right now to see if he can find anyone outside. He needs to be careful that he doesn't get himself pulled away too much, or else he won't be too effective in this round, mind you. But for the others, as you say, it's all about the intel play. They can work around this with intel covering the southwest side of the map from both Access and Mizuko. It's going to be tough here, I think, for anything to happen for the side of Kavana without being detected by the defenders.
There we go, you see the pings on the board, so Amos knows exactly where he's meant to be shooting, and plus, we did see him put out that air jab before, preventing Enclave from being able to make any kind of a run out, and giving Kavana the advantage. In goes the lifeline. Still no kills on the board. We're about halfway into the round. But what that suggests to me is once Kavana do decide to move into the building, it's gonna get bloody.
Well, they're already inside the building, Joe, and they're going for a plant here as well, but that's on the default spot, and we all know exactly how that tends to play out. It was Access this time around with a C4 from far away. Not playing downstairs, but was just going to throw it through the C4 holes at the top of the wall behind him. That is going to be enough. You still got to deal with the fact that you have Thor downstairs. He's going to find himself a kill on towards Rendy. So he's in a great spot to make something happen here. Playing on the downstairs below site with that cardiac sensor just makes this all the more difficult for Kavana to make anything happen, even more so when you're in a 5 versus 3, and you've still probably got a couple of cameras lying around, you've still got the Echo drones available, and most likely Manny will still have 1 or 2 gadgets left to go as well.
Well, runs is going to be falling. That takes the Jaeger off the board, but there still is this man advantage, as you say. We're gonna be getting a few of those gadgets while he can, but we're still seeing quite a few members of Kavana sitting outside. Grizzly is able to bring down Rizuko, so that's the Echo off the board. There's the 2K, and this could make the opening that Kavana need to start moving on into the site. But 15 seconds left, the pressure is on.
Grizzly, please. This makes it too easy for him here. They're going into him 1 by 1. My word. That was the... I don't want to say it was the most basic of mistakes, but because it wasn't. It was kind of a team-based play. I understand that. Right, someone's on the window. He's just killed me. Run out and shoot him. What's Grizzly's instant response? Okay, I've just killed someone from the window. Chances are they're going to tell someone, and someone is going to try and rotate on me. We haven't got cover downstairs. We know that the pulse is lurking around down there. Let's see what we can do. Well, they just run straight to the window. He finds himself an easy kill, and the other couple of kills, as you saw, were just heads peeking over walls or people being in the wrong place at the wrong time. A bit messy of an ending there, I think, from the side of Enclave, but otherwise a welcome introduction to the map, dare I say, for the side of Kavana.
I definitely agree with you. I think at that point, given that time was so low, Enclave really could have done more to ensure that they weren't going to be caught in that line of sight. As you say, at that point, they know where he is playing, and you kind of think, all right, well, they could just ensure that they're out the way, make a rotation that doesn't cross that window. But, you know, it happens. The round is over now. They are on even footing, having this 1-on-1. And then they're going to be returning back to this site. So clearly they feel confident that they can do it. They probably feel like they just made a little bit of a mess up at the end there, and that they actually know how they can handle this site.
10 seconds left before insertion.
So, heading upstairs once
5
more.
seconds remaining.
We've seen last time round, it was pretty easy to figure things out with C4s and the intel until Grizzly popped off and did his thing from the window. So expect some kind of change to come through from Enclave here to be able to deal with that a little bit better. I imagine they want to try and deal with Thor a bit earlier as well, because although, yes, they caught him in the last round, he still did find that early kill onto, well, not early, it was more later into the round, the kill onto Rendy, which removed him from the board entirely. First scan is going to come out from the EE1D, and look straight away, the Vidas window. They know that someone's running there, but Gorgona loses that fight, and there is no one to take the trade with him. That's a free kill for runs. He can literally back away from this and not take any more trades if he wants to. This is exactly what he's going to do. Good boy, and now knows that he's given them a massive advantage at the very start of this round. But let's appreciate just how low his health was. That was a close gunfight all in. Peeks the window, and Grizzly goes, you know what? I like windows. Last round was good. This round's good. It's another kill.
Yeah, you really shouldn't be hanging around by the windows when Grizzly's on the board, especially not when you're runs and you've got 1 HP left. But the fact that he was able to get Gorgona so early is huge for them. We've said it so many times at this point, Derry, and we're still only on round 3, but Gorgona is just such a huge fragger for the side of Kovana. So it's certainly going to be very disappointing for them, especially as they still want to be looking for those Black Eyes and the Yokai drones that are going to be situated around on the map. It's going to make it a lot harder too, as what we saw in the last round was Thor did move from the service entrance to underneath Billiards, underneath Hooker. And if you don't have the IQ there to be able to figure out where all this intel is, that's going to give him a huge advantage as the team start to move in.
May well do. It's all about the intel right now, and you can see that rotation drone being set up at the top of White Stairs, just so that corridor is completely covered and there's no potential flanks coming through from there. Grizzly is back on his favorite window, on that double window looking inside a Hooker Billiards. Manicrypt's got to be so careful, because remember last round, he got himself caught out here very, very easily with the head clip, and it wasn't really the most ideal spot to be in as a smoke player when your job is to be alive until the bitter end to try and slow the attackers down. 60 seconds left. First one's in. Now, the reason why he's putting that smoke on the ground in front of him, in case you don't know, is it does still go through walls, as you can see there. It means you can't plant in the default plant spot, but 2 kills spin, and Arctic has charged his way in. Access will find one into Grizzly, at least to bring some semblance of sense back to the team, but there's a plant coming through, and very smartly up on the table as well. Those C4s will not be able to catch him from below. Not that it matters, as there's only one left, and that angle is being covered by Rendy, who strikes back against Thor for last round, and Kovana take round number 3.
A lot more confidence coming out from Kovana, I think, on that round. And I suspect at this point, Enclave are going to be thinking, okay, we thought we were confident on that point, maybe not so much now. So kitchen service back to the point or the site where they were able to succeed the first time round. But, you know, when Kovana realize which site this is, they may think, well, we know how you did it last time. We know how we're going to do it this time. You never know. Seeing that 6-pick come out there onto the castle instead of the smoke. Evidently, smoke not working out so much there for Manicrypt. And also having the Mozzie alongside the Jaeger is going to give Enclave a little bit more of that roaming prowess. And actually, we've seen Axis play very well with the C4 operators so far. So it's very good to see him sitting on one for another round yet again.
It's just great on an Arctic there to be able to charge in and find those frags for his team, just to really get the ball rolling for them. Just double kill back to back. No trade coming through from the other side. We did see the 1 kill go across to Enclave, but it wasn't the one going on around that main firefight. So all that ground that was gained was just instantly theirs, and it was entirely on Enclave to start a bit of a push back from that point. What I do like here with the change they're coming through is, as you mentioned, they're bringing the Mozzie on side here. Now, they're going for this extended hold once again, it looks like, where they're trying to do the whole of the lobby, making sure that's castled up, as you can see right now. Same spot once again for the 2 Goyo shields looking in towards that area. I'm not sure how I feel about this. This is a really, really aggressive hold where you're doing more than just the west of Sunrise, for example, which is normally an extended hold. You'll fall back to site pretty quickly. And not just actually on site itself, but everyone is off site right now. It's exactly what we called out about Audacity, was that Crazy just had the opportunity to sit and watch key angles they knew that were weak. And as soon as someone tries to rotate back through, it's a free kill.
Well, that's interesting. I mean, straight away, Manicrypt's going to be going down. You mentioned being so far away from sight. That's why we saw the Yokai just then be placed over in service entrance. But the question is, even if you do see the right enemies on that Yokai drone, are you going to be able to rotate there in time before they've been able to eat your team alive? Obviously, having a member of the team go down so early is not a great place for Enclave to be. Gorgona has lost a lot of health, so he needs to play a little bit more carefully, but this gunfight be won? No, it can't for the side of Kovana. It will be Grizzly.
No.
And Arctic following as well.
They did go for the train. It did pay off for them. Access finds a huge double kill, though, as it looks like he's even found himself a rotate through here, through security, and straight in towards office, and finding himself 2 kills in the process. That was a real shame with Rizuko there because it looked like for a second he might find the third. A bit of a mistiming there coming out of Kavana Gaming and trying to go for that trade does come back to bite them as they lose 2 members there and then 2 more to access on the rotate. This is now Gorgona all by himself with a lot of work to do. However, would you want anyone else to be doing so when you are 4-2 so far on this map?
No, definitely not. He's going to have to play it a little bit carefully. And he does have plenty of time. That should be bear in mind. He's not really wanting for time, but half the round is over. But he's not going to make it any further. He does get caught out from Cool Vibes there as Thor gets that last shot onto him. And Enclave are able to take out the round. Really looking like they are the kings of the kitchen.
They're looking pretty happy in there. They absolutely are. So 2 rounds for them and 2 rounds apiece. It's definitely like last map. Let's not forget when we were at 2-2, it's this exact point. Every single round from this point onwards was won by Crazy. Now, if you were to stack the chips in either side's favor, you'd definitely be saying Kavana Gaming are the ones to be putting the chips behind in this instance. But even in that last round there, it was more down to not watching the flanks or not having them covered, which I thought was quite interesting because the setup coming out of the defender's side of Enclave there, I said at the very start, is very aggressive and very widespread. I didn't really see how they would be able to hold all that ground at once because as soon as the EE1D calls come in, that implies someone's been droned out. They feel they're in a weak spot where they can be caught from. Call the drone in, they can't move. They're pretty much as good as dead. But what they actually used it for was rotating people in from main lobby where there was very little attention actually being applied by Kavana Gaming there. Rotated through security, found themselves 2 kills, and the whole round was blown open from them, including a pretty bad trade coming through onto Rizuko, who found himself 2 kills. So a very scrappy round for Kavana there on the attack, maybe not as structured as Coach Prophet King would like, but let's see if they can turn things around going in towards a different site here. Maybe that setup just caught them off guard a little bit.
What I have to say I'm really happy with is how well Access has been playing, because we spoke about how Joe was the fragger for this team. We were worried about how things may be. In fact, Runs has been taking on this Jaeger role, and he wasn't the one playing the Jaeger before. He was always on Valkyrie or Mozzie before when Joe was on the team, while Joe was on Jaeger. And now with this slight switch up, Access has actually really been showing up. And I think if he is able to keep this up, he's going to continue providing a bit of an issue here for Kavana, who probably weren't expecting to have quite so much a threat from the gunpowder.
They are just charging the way in towards Kitchen here. They must know that someone is in here because they'll be absolutely right. This is a 2 versus 1 and they will come on top of this one, but they're also low. Thor this time round manages to find an early kill inside of Kitchen as well. So that initial aggression coming out of Kavana was double back on by Enclave, and they will trade that out 1 for 1. So a bit of a bloodbath to start things off inside the first 30 seconds, but now things should settle down once again. Droning will resume, and a bit of utility will start being expended by the side of Kavana to start finding their way in. Grizzly will find a kill inside of Office, so they have managed to get control of both Kitchen and now looking in towards Office on the south side. It's very much what we saw coming out of Crazy in their game earlier on, where they're starting to kind of just tighten things up a little bit here and give less freedom to Enclave to play around. The one thing they've got to watch out for, though, is Runs, who's playing on the upstairs right now. He yet could be a huge factor in this round.
Kick as well on the Zafir, just holding the other side of the map. Although it looks like he's going to start rotating around now instead of trying to get a different angle on. So far, not able to see anyone through those lines of sight. But Enclave have to at least be aware that he's going to be somewhere around there. Rendy, all the way outside. Again, just trying to hold these angles and assist the rest of the team as they begin to move in.
Great grenade coming through here as well. Should be an ADS on that side. In fact, doesn't manage to catch him out. Barely did anything from that one, but Grizzly will find himself a kill. Definitely having a game today. He is, and that was the plan almost going down from Amos there, but cancelled it at the last second. I think clearly now that they've got this information on where they are, they feel they can try and push in pretty aggressively. You can hear all these intel calls coming out as well. Great flank from Thor, nearly finds a triple, but Rendy gets that kill trade straight back over the other side. Runs does make an impact, a little bit later than maybe desired, as we mentioned earlier on. But now he knows that these last 2 are lurking around. The plant is going down. And on Coastline, the last thing you want is to be in a post-plant situation. This is going to be so tough for him to be able to turn around right now.
Now he's going to have to bring down these 2 entirely fully healed up players with the Buck and the Nomad, both with fantastic weapons. Is going to make it very hard, and he doesn't know exactly where they are. There is a ping on the board, but there's only so much he can do. And with them both on other... Well, there we go. He's going to go down, but I was going to say with them both on other sides of the bar, if he walks in through that door, he's going to be caught out from one angle or another. He gave it his best shot, but wasn't enough.
That was all too easy for Rendy as well. The bullet holes that were just in the side of the wall there. He saw the colours changing behind them, knew someone was pushing, and all he had to do was sit and wait. So well played once again by the side of Kavana. Looks like it might end up even this half out at 3-3. Things not as dominant either way as I thought they might be. I did think this would probably be a 4-2, if not a 5-1 half coming through for Kavana. But a couple of rounds where we've seen Enclave play very smartly. Again, with that very spread out defense, worked out really well for them with the later round rotates. They've definitely given Kavana something to think about so far. And going into the half, it could be 3-3. Chances are we could find ourselves heading towards another draw if things carry on the way they've started.
I don't know. I'm not convinced. We are going to Hooker, and that is the site that Enclave have really struggled with so far today. It's just, there have been a couple of times where it's looked like they've been playing well, but neither times that they've gone to this site so far have they been able to clutch it out. It's always been Kavana who's been able to get that at the end there. So yes, I think Enclave have been playing pretty well, and they have switched things up as well, putting Thor on the Legion now instead of keeping him on the Goyo. So they're going to be trying to slow those rotations instead of playing those more kind of static Goyo shields that we've seen thus far. But in terms of the likelihood of who's going to take this round, so far, historically, looks like it could still be Kavana. So wouldn't be too surprised if it is 4-2 at the half.
We'll see how it plays out. Last time around, it was all entirely down to the magic work done by Grizzly on that window. It's Grizzly's window is what we'll be calling it for the rest of today. Where Runs is right now, it's Grizzly's window. End of story.
That's what it's going to be known as forevermore.
He's just dealt with it so well multiple times now, finding a few kills from the window, finding those trying to rotate onto him. He just knows how to play the window. Admittedly, you probably should at this level. Everyone should know if you're playing that window, how to play it, what to watch out for, where the runouts might come through, or in this case, the window peaks. But just the way that he dealt with it that time round was pretty masterful to watch.
You know, window just doesn't even sound like a real word anymore.
No, I've said window so many times, you lose it.
No, stop.
No, exactly
it's
what you mean.
Not a word. It's not a word. But Kavana, they're going to be starting to come in through the east side. Of course, having that very early EOD, just so they have an idea of where everyone is. Not sure if it actually was able to catch anyone out, but all of Enclave playing very closely into the site. There's something that we saw them do a little bit differently when they did do that extended hold before. So they are trying things up. Of course, it is a different site, but knowing that they can at least do those different ideas, those different strategies, is certainly promising.
I'd say he really wants that camera, and he will find it in the end. So one thing I'll get to all the IQ players today. Actually, we have seen them, a couple of times. Dare I say I lean towards Secret, watched them a few times, losing an IQ early on before any real impact could be felt. Was a bit painful to watch sometimes. Today, we have seen a lot of IQs playing a bit more safely. Even they're dipping back in between pistol shots to make sure no one gets picked off. Well, not to make sure you gets picked off, I should say. Was a nice start at the very least, and finding out a couple of crucial bits of utility. Namely, one of the yokai drones will pay them off massively as the round progresses.
Opening up the wall. Now seeing Gorgona try and get some of these shots. So far, none of the angles being found. There we go, straight in behind the bar. He is able to bring down runs despite being stunned out. Pretty impressive there for him, and that does mean that Enclave is sitting now at a disadvantage.
Finding their way in towards Aqua. That looks like where the main point is coming from. You've got Grizzly doing Grizzly things off by himself at the moment, just trying to look and apply some pressure. Otherwise, you give so much freedom to those inside a hooker to rotate round, throw C4s through, chuck smoke canisters through if you still have the smoke playing in there, which in this case we don't. It just makes it a bit risky, whereas you can see right now, Razuko's had to tuck right into the back corner as well. So his gun is effectively offline by the sheer fact that Grizzly is here, and Axis is stuck playing in the spot where he is right now on the off chance that he is exposed to that window. So it does restrict the defenders somewhat, even just by lying here and waiting, and surely he knows that he's there. Oh my word, finds the one tap onto the head. Axis moves the tiniest bit and gets picked off before Razuko will trade things back out pretty much immediately.
Enclave basically know to be looking out for these windows. That's how Thor is able to bring Gorgona down, but he's going to be falling to a narkic in return. And now just Razuko is left with the plant being made by Rendy and two others on the team. So that's going to put him in the post-plant situation, but it doesn't matter anyway. He's going to be brought down by a narkic. It was a difficult situation for him and Kavana to take that round. And at this point, Des, I think that Enclave need to think that Hooker maybe not the site for them. They are switching on to the attack now, so doesn't matter in this case, but that's going to be a site that requires some work.
It's this multi-angle attack coming out of the side of Kavana there, I think, that caught Enclave a little bit. They were expecting a very heavy aqua push, and why wouldn't you? It's where we saw a lot of the pressure going on. They knew Grizzly was around, but didn't think they were exposed to him. He finds one. Anarchic drops, charges his way through blue bar, straight up Cool Vibe stairs, and finds himself a kill onto Razuko inside of sight. Just a number of instances there where I don't think they were ready to deal with pressure coming from 2 or 3 different directions at once, and they crumbled under that weight. But now things switch over. We saw a pretty aggressive defense coming out of Enclave on a couple of instances there. Let's see if the same approach is taken by Kavana, and equally if Enclave can keep that kind of pressure up into their attacking side.
Yeah, interesting here. Kavana are bringing the Vigil. And Enclave are going to be bringing the Jackal. So instead of having the Lion to use that E1D, find out where the locations are, they're instead going to be playing to figure out the footprints, figure out who is on the side of the enemy team. And so if played correctly, it could actually make it a little bit harder for Rendy to get the full value out of that Vigil.
10 seconds to insertion.
Yeah, between the Nomad and the Jackal, they should be able to tie down these roamers and make it a bit harder for them to do anything. But the fact that Rendy and Grizzly are both running on what they are now, you've got both the Vigil and that Mosley coming through. That's a lot of potential intel denial coming out against the attackers here, which might cause some upsets later into the round. So it's kind of this war of, you know, who finds who or who catches who out first. You're looking to those air jabs to do a bit of work to be able to slow down the rotations of someone like the Vigil, but the Jackal could be the real big play for them here to shut down the roamers. And in this case, one of them is gone already. Gorgona on that Jaeger, removed from play.
Located by attackers.
Absolutely huge early pick. And now
The
this is
full
going
count,
to be when Enclave start to move in. Well, yeah, they're just being completely watched here by Grizzly.
Is that still the full cam, or is that the... I want to say it is.
He gets the run out.
Defender has
And
been
that's
discovered.
all he needed. There goes the
That is
drone
actually the full
as
cam still up as well. Like, what?
Yeah. Yeah.
Hello? No, it's gone.
You can't be careless.
Maybe it's gone now. I was so confused and I was like, what the hell is that?
Not when you're playing as a professional team competing in a tournament. You can't be leaving stuff like that up.
There are memes about this. I can't remember the player.
Don't be
I
the
should know
meme.
it.
Don't be
It's
the meme.
honestly, coronavirus sent me to lockdown. I've not been following Siege much at all, but I remember a very, very important meme going around about a player who completely forgot one and found themselves getting tagged off the back of it. So you have to be so wary of where they are on the work that they're doing. Aren't repeating the same mistake, though. It has now been dealt with early on upstairs inside of Aqua.
I mean, I feel like the use of cameras and drones here has actually been pretty good, but not even necessarily because the droning's been necessarily impressive. The attacking team just haven't been doing all that much to mitigate it.
They don't need to, really. I think they're happy for them to try and push and play like this. They know they've got the Vigil on side. They know that the drones can't really achieve much if they're a pest down, for example. But look at this, actually. Grizzly's still got 2 of these pests in hand right now. I'm really surprised they weren't put down earlier on to try and block a common attack angle like Aqua, for example, and just slow the attackers down, because as it stands, well, Enclave is still free to push. They're still in the 4 versus 4. They're still in a comfortable position, dare I say. As Sifo comes out on the wall outside, blows it out, and now he can swing round. Oh, you must be joking me. No way has he found an R kick. But yes, he has. He's gone, and Rizuko will also die not too long after.
You think at that point there would be a little bit more communication, but ultimately, Kavana are still going to be winning that round out. Disappointing to see that, to say the least, but they almost seemed a little bit relaxed there. I think they always kind of had an idea of where the attack was coming in from. They didn't have to do much movement. Of course, the Mozzie made a rotation, but he's a roamer. What do you expect? And it just seemed fairly easygoing.
It wasn't too pressurized from them. They were just taking picks as and when they wanted to, really. You are right.
Yeah.
Couldn't deal with them for the most part. Grizz actually tilting an R kick. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I also don't like being C4 by my teammates.
No, I agree. I also don't like being C4 by my teammates.
Did they have 4 left alive at the end of that round? I want to say they did.
Yeah, I think so, yeah, because there were a lot of kills that came out at the end.
Yes,
from
for all
basically everyone
intents
who...
and purposes, it was a flawless round in essence to the defenders.
You could argue that.
Except for the team kill. I mean, in the stats, it
Yeah,
wouldn't
but
read
that's
that
still
way.
a kill to your team.
But in reality, we'll say a flawless round. Close enough. Unofficial flawless.
It may as well have been. But now moving on to Blue and Sunrise. This is only a point that we've seen once today. We saw Enclave defend it. Kavana were able to win that round out. And even though this wasn't the point where we saw a lot of window play, it was a point where we saw, I believe this is where we saw that interesting extended defense. And I'm interested to see if Enclave are going to try and take as many angles as we saw Kavana do when they were on their attack.
This is the issue, and this is what I mentioned about Enclave earlier on, that it kind of split. It tears me apart a little bit between the two sides, because I think if you're Enclave here, you say, yes, play towards the gun-based play, like you're still a team that's learning and kind of gelling together. You may as well play for the more gun-focused gameplay where the strategies aren't as important. But equally, they are a team that has got this very committed mindset of, we're here to improve, we know we're not going to win everything, we're just here to make ourselves known and show that we are capable players. Therefore, the mental mindset behind that will mean that the strategy play comes out looking pretty strong. So it's a real toss-up on, which one's stronger for these two guys. And as it stands so far, as bad as it sounds, neither side is stacking up particularly strongly for them. So the question is, well, what do you have going for your favour in that case? That's why you're finding yourselves at the very bottom of the Premiership table.
Yeah. Well, so far, not all that much happening. Runs is very close to Gorgona there, and actually Access is going to be the one to bring him down as he catches him on that angle. Runs falling himself as well. So now we've got one off on each side.
How did Grizzly get that kill?
I don't ask the questions, I just say who died.
Runs was a hole through courtyard wall. I didn't see it was soft. Fair enough. Okay. Fair enough. That's fine. Thank you, Alex.
There we go.
I was super confused as to where on earth that came from. I'd expected that wall to be reinforced and realised, okay, actually, we're defending downstairs. Chances are it's not going to be reinforced. Fair enough. You've got to ask these kind of questions, Gio. That's all I'm saying.
I'll be sure to ask next time. I'll test you.
No, you ask it to yourself, and then you've got to figure it out for yourself.
Oh, right. I ask myself a lot of questions, Des. I just tend to try not to say them too out loud. Randy's holding on to this angle here. He knows that someone's going to be coming down cool vibes, or at least he's expecting it. But question is, could Thor do that? Doesn't matter. He's going to be running back upstairs.
Smart.
And Randy's going to be falling down, bleeding out. It's going to be very hard to come and pick him up here, so he may be doomed.
Yeah, you've got the attackers crawling all over this area like an ant's nest right now, so you need to be so wary if you are going to try and go for this one. Coming into a trade this side of the hallway. How on earth, Grizzly, with 11 kills, the most on the map, have you not landed those crucial shots? That TCSG, so much talk about how useful they are. It's not much more use if you are dead. Rizuko finds that kill, and Enclave in a spot now where it is a 4 versus 2. Rendy still down but not out here. This could be a brilliant spot for them to play into. And look at this, even an Arctic doesn't want to turn around to get him back up because the note's coming down to these final 10 seconds. In fact, he was more of a drone for his team there because he's going to find out what's going on and let them know what was happening. The push came through, still manages to find the trade back on the other way. No Plank coming down, knows the final one's on cool vibes, but not quite to be the case. Thor will find that kill, and Enclave will take a round at the very least.
Yeah, finally able to get that done. Yeah, it seemed very kind of... obviously leaving the Valkyrie there was nothing much they could do. There were just so many attackers around that area. And it's nice to see. It's nice to see Enclave actually being able to set themselves up like that, where they can provide that pressure. In the end, they didn't even, unless I'm mistaken, they didn't actually even place the diffuser down. They just did it by kills. So... it was nice to see that it's being dragged out a bit. 5-2-3, but of course, just a couple of rounds away from Kovana being able to take out this entire map. Enclave still need to pick it up a little bit.
Yes, yeah, there's still work to be done, but they still have those 2 chances here. Don't forget, Kovana, win one more round. So, see, I can't help...
something else on the brain right now.
There is something else on the brain right now. We'll call them Corona for all it counts. Kovana, they're the one we're speaking about. They're in a round where they've still got one more round to win, and they have a draw guaranteed at the very least. Not super ideal, because you're looking at 2 wins in these final 2 weeks, but at the very least, it's not going to turn into a loss. Enclave, though, have got to repeat the success that they saw in previous rounds to make this one work out for them. And the success in that last round was a very heavy focus around that northwest side of the map. They pushed around Hooker, they took control of the downstairs inside pool entrance. That was where a lot of their play came from. The one really cute play they made was when Thor was on cool vibes and managed to get the Jackal tracker on the downstairs, knowing someone was near kitchen, but didn't want to push down on the full expectation that someone knew they were being tracked. All you have to do is get someone to watch the angle in towards him, and you're pretty much safe. So what did they do? They said wanted to pool entrance instead and say, tell you what, take the long shot. There is someone playing inside a hallway corner by the couch. Someone did that and found a kill from inside a pool entrance. It's the small, cute little bits of team plays like that can really work out for you. One thing that will work for Kovana here and give them a massive swing towards victory is Grizzly with that perfect run out, bringing down Access. And what's that gone, Gio? It's the IQ. Fortunately, there's no Echo. Fortunately, there's no Valkyrie, but it's still painful to lose that so early on.
Yeah, you really don't want to be doing that. Not quite gonna be able to get this shot is Grizzly, so he does just move down to make the rotation downstairs. Doesn't want to be caught out in that line of sight himself while he knows someone else is hanging out on the rappel outside of that window. Narkic, deciding, okay, he's gonna move one of his pests, take it elsewhere. And for now, members of this team are just trying to hold on to some of these angles, as it looks like Enclave are not making so much of a rush to move on into the building just yet. Gorgona knows where some of this gunfire is coming from. He's got to be careful because of his Goyo shield in front of him. We have seen so many casualties be caused by things like this. A little bit too late on being able to make that peak, though.
Yes, I think they've actually started to move themselves. That is the defenders over towards the east side here. Then that's where a lot of the pressure is starting to come from. Just want to make sure they've got this held down. And in fact, given what site we're playing on right now, you would expect a very heavy presence inside the rooms, at least to drop back down towards site when the pressure got too great. But no, they're holding on to 90 really, really firmly right now and saying, if you want to get rid of us from here, you're going to have to start burning some utility. As it stands so far, they haven't bothered trying to deal with this Goyo shield. Rennie needs to be wary, though, if that does come through, about what happens next. It's the intel that he's feeding back to his team right now, however, that is no doubt the most useful. Because Anarchic, let's not forget, is playing at the bottom of Cool Vibes. If someone tries to rotate down from here, well, it's going to be a painful experience.
It certainly is. He knows that there's members above him who are looking to come in through Hooker. Although it looks like Manicrypt's not, he's sitting on a drone, he's not making any kind of rush to move in, he's just ensuring that top is clear, but runs so close. He does get taken down by Anarchic, though, who still has control of that downstairs area. Grizzly is going to be falling, however, and Thor also having to move because of the smoke.
Small mistakes there, like runs for the great angle, by the way, there from Rizuka to find that kill. The small mistake from runs right there, you had Manicrypt on his drone behind you, bringing a drone into pool entrance to drone you in, and he pushed in too early. Like, why on earth you would do that when you have someone there willing to back you up with the drone is absolutely beyond me. However, this final push comes in now. Moss by himself finds one, finds a second. Can he find a third? Tries to go for it, but very smart there, pulling back a little bit. Manicrypt steps back and goes, you know what? No one tap from a shotgun today. Thank you very much. I'll just keep safe here a little bit further away and find enough bullets to end that round in our favor. Good stuff coming out of them, albeit a few mistakes along the way in getting towards that victory.
We were talking about how Enclave are going to have to do a bit of work if they want to even things out a little bit more, and it's looking like right now they're being able to put that in. And even if it's not because they're having really decisive attack rounds, they're able to clutch things out at the end, that's still just as valid. When it comes to the scoreboard, that is still just as valid. And those are also fights that the members of Kovana don't want to be losing. If you want to be proving yourself as a team who can frag and a team who can outplay these other teams, and they have had some fantastic games so far this season, in those scenarios, they shouldn't be losing out on those gunfights.
Absolutely not, but these things happen. And as we saw it ball down there, well, what happened, it absolutely did. 5-4 now for Kovana. Then Enclave suddenly one round away from pulling this back to a draw and potentially giving themselves either the second draw of the season or their first victory. We're still 2 rounds to get ourselves anywhere near that point. And even that last round, this is where there's some concern for Kovana, I think, is that Enclave made a couple of crucial mistakes, like I mentioned, with Run pushing in with the drone behind him rather than in front of him. A couple of seconds difference there would have been a kill without potentially losing a man. They still managed to win the round. So Kovana need to do more here, even with that run out at the very start to find a kill. Enclave managed to make it work. Needs to be more coming out of Kovana, I think, in the middle of these rounds to disrupt Enclave and stop them feeling so comfortable.
And one of the reasons why they have been allowed to feel comfortable is because they've frequently lost a member very early and end up playing with just 4 of them. And that's something that they do need to be watching out for, is they can't really afford to be losing people like that. People like Gorgona or Grizzly or whomever it may be who ends up going down. Now we're just seeing drone go in as Ren's holding an angle, but instead he's going to be heading on upstairs. You can see the ping on the map 24 meters away. So they know the general idea of where people are, but they just want to be getting in these early angles. Not quite able to get anyone just yet, though.
I'd say I want to see Runs getting rid of the shield nice and early. They just burnt every... Why did he burn double? No, he didn't. No, smart boy, smart boy, smart boy. He burnt the concussions and then got the impact coming out to get rid of the shields. That was the right play to make. Now the whole room is on fire. Everything is burning around the defenders, but there is nothing to fear, as of yet, no one has died on their side. Enclave doing the right things, though. We've been keeping a very close eye on the drone economy for the most part today. Only 2 drones down, about 1 minute and 15 into the round is definitely not a bad spot to be in. That being said, there are only a few of them out on the map right now. Of the remaining 8, there are still 2 away inside our pockets.
Now, you're seeing the defenders be a little bit more spread out with Grizzly kind of very close to the courtyard. Yeah, very likely he's going to be looking at his cameras, but also trying to hold some of those angles. But Enclave looking fairly close together. And it is something that we have noticed in their playstyle across the season is they do better when playing close together. But it is something that Kovana should be aware of. Yes, they might want to try and rotate around, get some of those flanks. That's why you might have the Valkyrie around there. But so far, I mean, we've seen they're not always guaranteed to win out those fights.
Yeah, it's the same as we saw from Audacity earlier on. Like, when you're a bit unsure as a team, you will play closer together. If someone dies, it's a lot easier to fill the position. You're more likely to find a trade. The weakness being, of course, you can't apply pressure from multiple angles and can find yourself getting torn apart if you're not careful. C4 comes sailing over from Rendy, and Thor, down behind Blue Bar, will find himself caught out entirely there. Grenade comes flying through. Rendy, not too far off getting himself blasted to bits there, but not quite to be the case. And you say it yourself, Gio, Grizzly, with a wonderful flank, completely shuts Enclave down. And this is why when you're playing as a group, you should absolutely have at least one of you watching these crucial flanks. You've even got a Nomad on side, and he still manages to get away with that. That is unforgivable in this instance.
Well, that was that positioning from the Valkyrie that I was talking about before. Yes, he had a look at those cameras, and he was able to sneak up around them. Now it's just Rizuko left on the side of Enclave. And if he doesn't clutch this one out, then the worst Kovana can do today is a draw. And that's a very high-pressure situation to be in. But it doesn't look like things are really going to be on his side. 3 seconds left. He's just trying to play out his life a little bit here. But Kovana are going to be taking the round.
Better time to have a chat there as well, I think.
Yeah.
It's really not looking so hot for them right now.
That round current events.
Yeah, it's like I say in most instances, like they should They should have to be in a great spot where they know that pushing as a unit, they have the air flanks watch, they can trade for each other, they can fill spots when someone dies. Like, it makes sense. But you have to make sure those crucial things are being done. If you aren't taking trades, you're losing out. If you're not watching the flanks, you're losing out. They just got caught completely unawares there, and, well, as bad as it sounds to say, it was a deserved loss in that instance. Now we go potentially into the very final round, and look at the site we are headed to. Here's a bit of a different one for you. It's going to be Penthouse and Theatre with a castle and a clash on side.
That was what my ooh was for. I was just thinking, well, Kovana, they know that this is the round that they need if they want to win this one out, and where better to go if you want to throw off your enemy, if you think that they may be less prepared than you are, take them to the site that no one ever wants to go to. Obviously, bringing out that clash, she has seen some time away from not just pro play, but just any kind of play. They had to take her out of the game for a little bit. She's back, ready to be back in action. And I don't know, there's always something so wonderfully cheesy about seeing shields be played on this map, whether you're playing it with a Monty, a Blitz, in this case a Clash. It's just so much fun. It's like a guilty pleasure.
I like how many rotations they've already started opening up here as well. You can see this one in towards hallway, one straight inside a bedroom. So their ability to get on and off site here is going to be incredibly quick. And that castle wall going down right there on the wall in towards VIP probably looks a bit strange at first glance. A lot of it is just down to covering off angles and making sure it's safe to use that rotation without getting picked off. We've seen things like this being used on maps like Villa, for example, when you want to be able to rotate in and out of master bedroom. It just made things a little bit safer for the defenders to play around, and as shown by Alex there superbly, there is that reinforcement on the double door inside a hooker as well in towards hallway. That means the angles that they can hold down here are now effectively useless unless they are willing to send someone around there to deal with those early on. But when you've only got 5 bits of soft destruction on side that can deal with them, it's a big risk and a big investment to be dealing with all of those that way.
Well, this is where we're going to have to see a lot of droning coming in from Enclave, because they need to know exactly where everyone is. This is going to be a site that they are much less prepared for. Already, drone going down. And if they end up losing them early, they're going to be flying blind. And that's going to be a very difficult situation for them to be in. It's like Grizzly maybe... I was going to say preparing to do a run out, just getting rid of a drone right now and holding onto an angle, but isn't going to go the full risk, and instead just putting up one of those castle barricades as he leaves and heads, well, I was going to say down cool vibes, but he debated me.
Have they changed around that castle barricade potentially? I think it's been removed from the hooker doorway now, or sorry, the billiards doorway, and they put it instead on that one that you saw a second ago, so maybe wanted to actually play around that area instead, I'm not sure. But quite a spread defense coming out of Kovana so far, and you can see how Enclave maybe are a little bit unsure this round compared to others. They're still walking the way around the map. They're still repelling in. They're still trying to decide exactly what the best play is right now because they're just not sure.
And that's, I mean, that's really what Kavana are going for here, you know? At the very least, it burns a lot of time down. Another drone just lost there for the side of Enclave, but it burns so much time down that by the time the Enclave even managed to make it into the site, they're forced into these gunfights, they're forced into this situation where it makes it very hard for them to plant, even if they've managed to make it that far. That Goya shield going down isn't going to help them all that much as the room does end up on fire. And obviously Rendy here holding on to 90. It's going to make it very difficult too. Rizuko will be the first casualty of the day, or of the round, I should say. And less than a minute remaining, it's looking like it could be quite difficult here for Enclave.
It's an interesting setup coming out of Rendy as well, where he's got these shields covering both sides here. So he can watch the entirety of 90, both south and off to the west if he wants to. Really slows things down for the attackers because they can't take over VIP in this instance. You had the Clash playing inside a Hall of Fame, just watching and waiting anyone to dare try and push through. So they can't take VIP that way. They can't take it from the hallway. Everything is just very rough. Now we are going to see a push start to come through from the side of Enclave right now, but Gris is going to find one kill. Almost a second comes through. It will in the very end of it. It manages to make that work. Axis is the one who comes away with the kill, but down to 10 seconds. He's got the diffuser, but they've still got 3 to deal with, and that Clash is still alive. C4 comes through. It's a beautiful defense coming out of Kavana right now. I don't see a way that this round gets won. They know it's going down that way as well. We'll find a consolation kill, but that is going to be the round ended out and the match taken by Kavana.
Oh, what an absolutely fantastic way to end it out. They really confused Enclave at the end there. They threw them off course. They made it so hard for them to push in. You said it before, that setup from Rendy in hallway made it very hard for anyone to really challenge those angles, let alone move down 90 and move into VIP. And it was just a fantastic, going out in a blaze of glory almost. Just a great way to end the map.
Yeah, a great game overall as well, guys. Actually fairly close there. There was a couple of really squeaky bum time rounds, I'd say, that definitely had my heart pounding. What a matchup. What were the key takeaways for the both of you there off the back of that best of one?
I think we saw very much the same sort of thing that we saw from Audacity earlier on, where, you know, pushing as a group works. But if you're not getting the fundamentals right, like watching the angles as you push through, you're going to get yourself caught out. And for me, it really epitomized itself on the attack as well, when they were trying to get runs down inside a pool entrance. Maori Crypt was just behind him with the drone, and there was no call to say, just wait a second, I've got a drone coming to support you in. Runs, walks in, and gets shot because he has no idea where the defender is in that instance. It's the small things like that in Enclave that still look very, very messy. And maybe this is what they need to work on as a team here, has been looking at the team play. Very tough when you have a lot of changes constantly going on, but as two of the original players, well, you would be expecting Mauni and Runs to have a bit more coordination between them.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it there. I think vigilance is definitely something that needs to kind of be improved upon, because not only you had, I mean, there's really little mistakes like not shooting out the camera, but also things like how Kavana were always able to get those angles in from the windows, which is something that you should be aware of. But I think on the other side of things, one thing that we've learned from this matchup is maybe not to just assume that the really good players are going to always pop off. Gorgona did not have a great game today. It wasn't terrible, but he was being caught out in a lot of times, more so than he should have been. A lot of the flack was picked up by Grizzly, who is someone that we did point out as being a great player for this team, but it does mean that somewhere where we thought a lot of the strengths of a certain team were gonna come out from actually didn't end up happening.
Yeah, not as much Gorgoning as potentially first suspected going into the game. I mean, in the flip side of things, though, obviously for Enclave, it was a good run. And they have a nice little benchmark here they can build off. That's the benefit of obviously competing in the Prem. So much information could be had, as you were saying, Derry, in changing up those setups and being able to work on the little things that are definitely fixable. Watch that VAR, be able to delve a little bit deeper. It definitely seems like the core mechanics can be tweaked and be fixed going forward.
There's always things that I think you can take away from any game like this one. It was a bit scrappy, I think, from both sides at times. Some rounds are really well executed. I really liked the execution that final round there coming out of Kavana in terms of how they defended Penthouse and Theatre. No team likes to go there. No one plays it. The only time you really see it is inside of ranked, but they made that look like it was something they played countless times over. Enclave probably a little bit lost there. Haven't really had much prep towards that side. Did get caught completely off guard by it.
I mean, there is always... Yeah, I don't want to make it sound like I'm too pessimistic or whatever, but, you know, yes, they made it look great, but they were playing against the team who were at the bottom of the table. So I think, you know, maybe if you saw that happen against a team like Crazy, for example, we would have seen a different outcome. And yeah, it's all well and good to turn around and say, oh, well, if you were against this team, it would have gone different, because yes, of course it would have. But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, they did well. They didn't do as well as I wanted them to do. And I think when you think about if they do end up making it, you know, into the finals or whatever, they're going to be facing a much harder opponent. And that's where they need to think about the relativity of how well they have been performing on these maps.
Yeah, the quality of competition is only going to get harder and better from this point forward. And so will the quality, of course, our competitors in the league. And we do have another potential vote for you guys at home on the Twitter sphere that want to get involved and show us what you think. You can let us know of who your player of the match was. And who do you think your player of the match was, Des?
I'd probably say Grizzly. I mentioned back at the very start that Grizzly and Gorgona were going to be the two players to watch for their side. They definitely delivered really well, I thought. Grizzly especially really popping off. Admittedly, through to some mistakes from the other side, but still managed to capitalize on them. It does take a good player to be able to realize those opportunities and take them. But looking at these, Thor mentioned he's only been with the guys for a couple of games. Had a pretty decent game. Anarchic, a pretty decent game even. Anarchic, he also, one of the quieter players normally, really showed up well, especially on the Zofia today, I thought.
Like how you asked Derry who his person of the match was, and he picked all three. Now,
A lot of love.
Just
a lot
to
of love
give a
to
nod,
give.
I'd say Grizzly is my main man, but the other two I'll give a nod to for definitely
They're the
playing a good
backup
game.
dancers.
to be
Exactly,
fair, I
mate.
probably would have said something very similar. All three of them did impress me. I will go with Grizzly as well. I really enjoyed watching him play. I think that he, you know, he did kind of do what we expect, and that was really pop off. And he picked up a lot of the heavy lifting on that side of the side of the fragging and things like that, where it wasn't necessarily being carried by other members of the team. But again, I'm going to sound like such a hypocrite here because I just you know, told you off for doing it.
Do it.
Thor really impressed me because, as you say, he's kind of just come in recently, and while he wasn't necessarily as standout as Grizzly, there were certain moments where he got some really key kills that allowed either trades to come out from his team or his team to get ahead in terms of the man advantage, and so he gets an honorable mention from me.
You know, I'm going to be a little bit
Anarchic was there
spicy.
too.
I'm just going to give mine to 4 and say that, you know, based off the lightning fights that were at frightening heights, he really hit the number for me. But there is still more Prem action to come. Of course, up next, we're going to see the Randys. As Ded said earlier, you definitely don't want them coming into your house right now. These Randy boys facing off versus Fierce. It will be a bloodbath to remember. That is going to be our final matchup of the night. There's a lot of Fierce fans that have been popping off, so hopefully they'll stay tuned for that one when we come back after the break. And welcome back, Siegers, as we look to continue on here with the final matchup of the night. In for potentially a little bit of a treat here, with a known quantity in Fierce facing off versus a squad that can be a little bit rambunctious, a little bit hard to predict at times, of course, Randy's.
You might even call them Randys, literally by name, by definition of their playstyle. It can be a bit random, it can be very erratic, but the problem is when they get on top of you, things can hurt. Especially looking at players like JTC, Keenan, Weston, in fact, all of them, I'll probably say, have the opportunity in some weeks to really pop off and make teams look a bit silly. Now, you are against Fierce, who, as I mentioned earlier on in the broadcast tonight, they're a team that has been coming together more and more as the weeks have gone by. They've looked increasingly promising. This should be a game that Fierce should win, unless Randy's just completely outfragged them, and that should not be something that's happening at this level for a team like Fierce.
Yeah, I think something really worth noting about these two teams is they are right next to each other in the standings, but there is actually still quite a disparity in their own win-loss records. Randy's are sitting there at 2-1-2, so they have one draw, and Fierce are sat there at 4-0-1, so they have 4 wins. They have twice as many wins as Randy's do, and yet they're right next to each other. So it is going to be exciting because from a seeding perspective, it's going to make a big deal. But actually, on paper, Fierce look like they are way more set to win this series than Randy's are.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? In theory, there's potential here that this actually could be a bit of a bust-up between the two sides, but that is going to come down to the players to be able to swing that hammer and turn the pendulum, and who will walk away as the winner. So who are we keeping our keen eyes on as the star players from either side here, Des?
I think really if you're looking at Randy's, then the player that I would have said would have been the standout one for them would have been No Thumbs. He's a guy that coming into this season had a questionable history in the Prem. I'd say he wasn't really the best fragger before. I used to set the mick out of him for going 007, for example. But back in week 1, he went like 10-1 in their first game, and I was like, who is this guy and where on earth has he been all this time? Where is the former man known as No Thumbs? So he's not really a player you're looking out for. So you're looking towards someone like Weston, I'd say. Shotgun hero, as I like to call him. On the other side for Fierce, though, you're probably looking towards someone like Tyrant. This guy has got one of the best KDs in the entire of the Prem. Absolute fragger at the best of times. Really someone that can pop off and run away with the game if you give him the time and attention.
Personally, for me, I think on Fierce, my eyes are mostly going to be looking towards Kayak. Kayak's a really interesting player because he does play that hard support. He plays a lot of hard breaches. You see him on operators like Mirror, Mute, Kaid, but he's really good at fragging nonetheless. He really kind of steps outside of his role in that respect, and he's able to pick up multi-kills and does quite a lot from that perspective for the team. So, even though that's not his job necessarily. He's very good at getting both done, and therefore he's very fun to watch. He's very interesting to watch, and he's quite a young player too. So he's someone who you want to be thinking, okay, this guy's got potential, and this is someone I want to be looking out for in the future of not just British Siege, but European Siege, potentially one day worldwide Siege.
Oh yeah, he's also useful to have in case of a flood.
It's very
Please.
You're not wrong.
But
I love how you can literally count the probably about 0.7 seconds there that me and Gio were kind of like, what? And then it settled in.
and then you realise, well, let's wash past this one as we sail on down to the vetoes, as we do have the picks and bans ready, so we can start to chip away and see where we will be taken on this lovely final game of the evening.
So this one's an interesting one, I think, between the two sides. Randy's and strategical maps? Nah. Brandy's and fragging maps? Yeah. So something aggressive, like, again, leaning towards maps we spoke about earlier, things like the border, potentially, things like the coastline, even something maybe along the lines of a consulate. I spoke about it earlier on. It's a very aggressive, attacking-focused map. So you might see them go towards there and choose to start things off on attack and just go hell for leather and try and win it out there in the first half.
I definitely think that would be what I would want to see. Both these teams have done best on Cafe so far. And so I think as a direct result, neither of them are going to want to take the other to Cafe. And so I think when you kind of remove that and you eliminate that from the options here, you are left with wanting to go to those more frag heavy maps. So I don't know. I don't have a specific one in mind that I specifically think that we should be going to. I'm pretty happy to see any of them. Though it's looking like we're still waiting to see.
Let's start to find out then if we move deeper on into the veto and see if you are right. Was Border and Clubhouse have both been taken out?
I was going to say Fierce might even go Clubhouse because it's quite a strategical heavy map, and they might think, okay, actually we're the ones practicing and rehearsing a lot lately. Maybe we're the ones to go to Clubhouse and win it, but clearly not.
They haven't played Clubhouse yet, but Randy's did draw with Audacity on Clubhouse, so it's sort of unsurprising that.
Surely you look at that and think, wow, if Audacity can try draw Randy's on Clubhouse, then surely you take them there and just beat them into the ground.
Oh yeah, you take them there.
but apparently not.
Yeah, no, I guess not. So still waiting to see on the others.
Nope, we'll have final two bands coming through.
So the aggro map, yeah. So this is probably where I'd expect an attack. I'll check out what it is in a minute actually and get from the admins where they're starting. But I know that a lot of times, especially for teams like Crazy, we always come back to them. They like to start an attack on maps like this because it's one of those maps that if you have something like a Nomad or someone just to cover the different windows, jump outs are very hard, yet pretty much every single site, bar one of the ones downstairs, and of course looking in towards, well, Armory and Archives, what am I on about?
I love that.
Why am I going this way? Tellers and archive, sorry. Those, of course, don't have windows involved, but everything else has a lot of play around windows. It's a very thin map, so it makes it very easy for aggressive teams that can attack from multiple angles to shine. That's where I thought you might see Randy say, you know what, we can just attack from 4 different angles and try and find kills, and the map is ours from there. But again, we'll find out where they start.
Randy's lost on Consulate to Kovana, or the Burning Foxes as they were then known. They lost 4-7. So it is somewhat of a risk for them to be taking Fierce, a team who are arguably better than them, to a map where they already know they haven't had a great time with a team who are lower in the standings. Fierce haven't played on Consulate so far this season, so that's still a bit of an unknown. And I want to kind of go back to a point that I think I made when we were going into the first series today, Des, and that is that if you haven't played a map so far this season, there's probably a reason why. And so it could be that even though Randy's did have a bit of a tough time when they were playing against Kovana on this map, Fierce have specifically avoided it.
Well, what we can do as well is look to see what the viewers at home are thinking this game is going to swing towards. Of course, we do have our online Twitter polls, and as you'd expect, quite heavily in favour of Fierce, with 78.6%. Only 19% believing in the Randy boys having a chance in this one. Let us know on Twitter, of course, at ESL UK and all of our social media channels. But between the two of you in this channel right here, who do you believe is going to take it? All on board the Fierce train, I'd imagine?
I would give it to Fierce. Generally, again, the prep that we've seen going into it, the only issue with them is inconsistency sometimes can creep in, especially after they had the bit of a downward trend in quals, CL quals that is. So Randy's have a shot, but I think on paper you definitely give it across to Fierce.
What I'm really surprised at, actually, is that this was the game out of the 3 we have today that I think all 3 of us agreed was going to be the closest game, and yet when we look at the Twitter poll, it's the one with the most decisive choice of a winner in Fierce esports. So I don't know, maybe Twitter knows something that we don't, And the games that we thought were going to be stomps actually turned out to be the closest one. But I definitely think that it'll be fierce.
Yeah, I mean, there's always that level of unpredictability that could come in to really throw us off, and time will tell. As we are ready for the game, Randy's ranked 5th right now, face off versus Fierce, that are ranked 3 in the overall standings. Let's see who's going to be walking away as the victor. I leave it with you one final time.
Gio, I've been attacked.
You've been attacked? Why is that?
I've been attacked. I had Keenan coming at me on Twitter saying, Desert Chew just called No Thumbs our star player. I'm dead. And I said, I'm not saying he's your star player, mate. He's the best of a bad bunch is what I'm saying, basically. And he was like, I'm raging. I've been put on Monty duty all this time. It's a load of rubbish. But here we are. Let's see if without their star player, they can still shine.
I'm not going to say you shouldn't be on Twitter while working, Des, but come on now.
Hey, look, man, when someone attacks me, I just got the spider sense tingling, all right? It just goes off and I'm like, right, okay.
Look at these bands!
Oh, okay, that Monty. That's Fierce saying, okay, that Monty ban is definitely going against Keenan because he's played it pretty much all the time.
Yes,
so
I have that written in my notes.
Gone.
Just Monty attack! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark! Randy's really like to do that, and it's actually worked out fairly well for them so far. So that's definitely a target ban if I've ever seen one.
I believe in their game on Clubhouse, it was Randy's up against Audacity, or was it Enclave? I want to say.
Yeah,
I want to say it was on.
No,
Yeah,
they
and they
played
had
Enclave on Cafe. They played.
That's the one. So they had the 2 final rounds to go. It was after a rehost. What did they do? Played Monty 2 rounds in a row and drew the map. It was ridiculous. So I'm not too surprised to see it taken away. Thermite is going to make things, I want to say not so tough. Like this map, it's more if you focus that around that being banned, then suddenly Garage downstairs, Garage and Cafeteria becomes a much stronger site to play. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see quite a bit of focus going there after we've had the craziness of the first round rotation we spoke about a few times. And that is more like as I said, a ban away here against something that can't be played anyway. So it's more of a throwaway ban in this case. Why not leave the 4th one up?
Yeah, I mean, it's sure, you do you, but it's definitely an interesting choice for the ban anyway. I suppose it gives the opportunity for things to be a little bit more exciting. Consulate is one of those maps where you typically have around the same sorts of bans every single time. It's one of those maps where people know exactly how they like to kind of play it. So it is kind of fun to see it change up a little bit, and you don't know what we're going to see. Obviously, the Monty's not available, so we're not going to see any of those strats, and I'm actually kind of interested to see what Randy's are going to bring out, knowing that things have got to be a little bit different this time.
No, there's going to be some changes for sure. Fierce are the one starting on the attack, and I love how their name has suddenly gained about 5 or 6 extra characters as well. God bless.
Yeah, it did that last week as well.
Yeah, that's part of the UI changes that maybe weren't considered for extra characters, but here we are. It's all good. So, starting things off then, what we're seeing coming out of the side of the defenders, nothing too surprising. I'd say maybe looking towards Penguin on that vigil to cause a little bit of chaos. Probably be on the roam downstairs, supported by some of the intel coming in from Keenan on the Valkyrie. Like he said himself, Monty Duty has been his thing with it being banned away this map. When the side swap does come through, it's not going to matter too much. But let's see if we can pad out those stats nice and early. But it's Shermie padding out the stats early. Western trying to make something happen. I called him a shotgun hero earlier on. Stick to the shotguns, buddy.
Yeah, well, that's not a great start there for Randy's, and it only really exacerbates this idea that we spoke about before, that Fierce really are in the beneficial position here. Going to be watching out these windows again, but using the bomb as cover. That stun grenade will not be too much of a threat here for the Legion. Down goes the drone, but Execute is going to be taking some damage in the process. Tyrant also going down to the C4.
Managed to make that C4 work, bringing him down. We'll balance things out. Again, Tyrant, the top fragger in the minute at the whole of the Premiership. So him being gone will be definitely felt on the side of Fierce right now. In terms of attack presence, you can see a lot of work going in here towards the west side of the building, taking over yellow stairs, taking over the windows, pushing in towards meeting itself. As it stands, no real massive entry being made towards the building here to start pushing in towards the site, just trying to focus on making sure they've got control elsewhere. Execute is down, as you can see, definitely down, but most definitely not out just yet. And I think trying to find himself in a safe spot to be able to get himself picked up. JTC finds one of the procs, and the blows are going back and forth here. Reese finding out Execute as well. Now into a 3 versus 3 between both sides, and we still have 1 minute and 35 seconds left in this round.
And Shelly will be feeling the goo mine and bringing down Penguin as well, who became aware of his position. And the whole reason you decide to bring the Legion, looking like it's not going to be too much of a deterrent here for Fierce. Now starting to shoot through the wall. That makes life very hard there for Keenan, who will be falling down. And really, it just looks like dire straight out here for Randy's with just JTC remaining.
All these walls being soft as well. These ones here in particular make it so risky because you can get pushed around an awful lot. That grenade almost finding a kill, but not quite to be the case. And Fierce will end things off as they started with Shermie finding the kill.
Really great and very decisive round there for Fierce. They didn't really hang around. They didn't worry too much. They were playing aggressively, something we kind of expect from them. They are good at taking gunfights. They're good at playing aggressively. It's something that they have shown all the way through, not only just the Prem season so far, but they also showed it in the CL quals when we saw them playing in that too. But now the defensive site is going to be taken down to Cafe and Garage, which, fun fact, Des, this is my favorite site in the entire game.
And why is that, Gio?
I don't know, it's just cool.
There's got to be something specific about it. Is it the way it's played?
Really
is it the layout?
yeah,
is it the paint on the walls?
That's also great. I love the color yellow. I actually don't like the color yellow very much at all. I really enjoy watching the defense be set up on the garage door and just seeing how different teams decide to approach that. Obviously, very standard for people to go in and with the hard breacher on the outside, but the use of the vertical play as well, I just really enjoy it. I think it's a really fun sight. And it's a sight that I get mad when I see a bandit brought instead of a Kaid, but we are going to be seeing a Kaid today, so I'm not going to get mad.
All right, that sounds like a good outcome. So we are going to see the electrification coming through, as you probably would expect. The interesting thing we're not seeing here, of course, come through is the Thatcher. Not really any massive need for it, I want to say. The plan here more for the side of Fierce, I would expect, is to use the soft destruction they've got to get upstairs. They have the block on side. They've got the Zofia if they need it. Take control of Piano and safely open up the wall from there if they need to with the Hibana. All that's all good come through instead, looking down to the hatch inside of Bathroom. So a couple of options here for the attackers, even though that Thermite has been banned away.
Yeah, and of course, as you say, not a huge need for the Thatcher. So if you can get the IQ into Piano, open up the floor, you can get rid of the electrical that way, and then apply pressure onto those below. The Mozzie is actually upstairs for now. This is going to be interesting seeing how he decides to play that, especially now Vigil has rotated back down. So far, not seeing anyone. Just seeing if he can get some of those peeks through the wall. Shermie, once again, going to be getting the first kill of the round, this time onto Penguin.
It's a start once more, bringing down the Vigil, most important as well. We know their own capabilities and the awkwardness of trying to deal with someone like that when you can't see them on the cams. Good teams do tend to rely on intel quite a lot, so Fierce probably breathing a slight sigh of relief knowing that he is now gone. But immediately, let's look at the spread here as well. This ground floor almost entirely taken over by the attackers so far. I don't know if they're aware that JTC is playing on the top floor right here. You can see him lay down, watching in towards Visa Stairs, I assume. Got to be careful that no one tries to rotate up there and gets themselves in a spot of hot bother. He's going to have to make an impact later into the round at some point, I imagine. That hatch being open does mean that he can threaten in towards Piano. But as the attackers here, they should be keeping an eye on what's going on around that hatch and being aware that someone might try and rotate onto them. And they said at the start of the round, this is the plan. You get above, take control of Piano, open things out. They've lost all of the ex-Kairos there. Not watching that wall, clearly didn't hear the electrification go down. And now all of their hard breach has been removed in one. That means they're going to have to do things now by pushing very aggressively down yellow stairs or instead trying to push from the east side of the map.
Oh, that was a very big misplay there. Overconfidence perhaps from Fierce. We did see Prox and Kayak working together so that he could time using those X-Kairos. But the fact that he put all three down instead of waiting to see if it was going to get tricked, very disappointing. But now out come the trades with both Execute and Kayak falling. And that's going to lower the number of members on the board. Although Randy's are going to get a couple of kills on top of that.
Well, JTC dropped down there and did find himself a kill inside of Piano. However, that was a momentary problem for the side of Fierce as it was immediately traded back out as well. Prox will find one onto Keenan, now into a 3 versus 1. Weston, the last man left alive. No Electro cores on side and no claws of his own apparently to strike back at the other side. Prox taking those final 2 kills and Fierce take round number 2.
It did look like it was going to be a bit harder there for the team after what happened with their hard breach, but they were still able to make it work for them. And also applying the air jabs to the yellow stairs at the end there just gave them that extra security that they required in order to finish off the job. now. Just waiting to find out what site that we're going to be going. Okay, going back to Cafe and Garage. So evidently, Randy's feel confident that they'll be able to make this work again, bringing up a completely different lineup though. The Kaid once again, but this time with an alibi and a mirror, make things a little bit harder, a little bit more pressurizing for the attacking team to deal with.
Yeah, the mirror especially here is going to make things a bit tougher because, well, I say that because mirror just by nature makes things tougher because there's more intel for the defenders that you cannot oppose as the attackers. But in this instance, we saw Randy's playing very deep, quite far back, quite a lot anyway. They were sunk quite well inside a cafeteria, inside a small office. And if that's where they're going to be sitting now, except with mirror windows instead. But there wasn't a wall going on towards the garage door at all. It wasn't even opened. Play instead came upstairs on the ground floor looking in towards piano. So what you probably want to see here from the mirror is a lot of setup coming inside a bathroom and just making sure this first floor can be held down very safely and that there can be no real opposition from the other side. That may yet be what we see here. It depends how much they want to commit to doing this. It's exactly what they're going for. Wouldn't be too surprised to see both mirrors getting used in here to give themselves full visibility of what's going on this floor.
Yeah, I was going to suggest the same thing, set up inside a bathroom, especially as we saw such a lot of work be done by Kayak coming into piano on the last round. And so the fact they know that Fierce really utilized that room to be able to get one up on the team, that's really the room that you want to be watching out for. With those extra reinforcements there that will help keep the mirror safe, especially as the other members of the team are going to have to be elsewhere and not completely sitting here with the mirror to be able to hold her back. Proc's going to be the first one to fall. It's going to be very difficult not having the Hibana there. Someone else is going to have to pick up the diffuser, but it also means the garage wall is really going to struggle to be opened.
Yeah, that war has been put to bed very quickly here, because even with Western still holding on to an Electro Claw for a repeat of the last round, once that Hibana's gone, well, there are no more hard breaches left. There's no Maverick on side, of course, as you can see. That thermite being banned away means that, again, like last round, it's going to turn into a bit of a war in other areas of the map and in trying to take control of this ground floor. So this does mean out in the basement. We are now going to see quite a fight going on over the ground floor because you can see the drones starting to roll in. The mirror has been identified. Now they know they've got to pinch her out of here. They've got to be able to close. Oh my God, I was going to say you've got to be able to go for a good team play to get rid of her, but a spray through the wall straight into a headshot will do more than enough. And X-Cure didn't stand a chance.
That makes you wonder if perhaps Randy should have set up their reinforcements a little bit differently to try and prevent that from happening. But right now, it doesn't entirely matter. Fierce are already in. Now, he's losing one of his drones, but he's going to start making his way into holding an angle here onto yellow stairs, while Shermie holds the hatch here in the lobby.
The fact they've got control of piano means they have all this vertical control if they want it, but JTC, just like in the last round, has been left ignored otherwise, meaning they can't take control of piano, they can't take control of downstairs because they can't open any hatches. This makes things very, very tough. Opening himself a bit of a rotation here, hoping to find someone, I think. Drops down, but they were watching the angle this time round. Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. Whatever the other way around that saying goes. Who cares at this point? Yeah, something like that. Anyway, JTC gets dropped down. Now that vertical pressure has been removed, and the only two members that are left, as you can see for Western, off towards the left, and Keenan here on your screen, is the defense inside of the basement itself. 45 seconds to go, and Fierce have got all the time in the world to make this one work, albeit only 2 drones left on side.
At the very least, well, what you would expect is maybe they start to come in through different angles as they move down, and rather than just funneling themselves through yellow stairs, because that puts more pressure on these remaining 2 members of Randy's to be watching so many different angles, which is going to overwhelm them as a duo. And that's exactly what we're seeing as members of Fierce start to move in from the east side of the map. But Shermie's not going to be winning out that gunfight. That's going to make it a little bit more difficult and put this 2v2 situation. But Keenan's not going to be winning that one out. Tyrant's going to move on forward, and Fierce take the round.
Yeah, Reese pushing down yellow stairs there. A bit scrappy at points where there isn't really any kill trades trying to come through. It's more just a blind push in some ways, but the right pressure was being applied there to make sure the round definitely went their way no matter what. So, Fierce off to that dominant form that you would expect, admittedly, on the attacking side of Consulate. And despite it being the map pick, I think, well, the agreed map pick, the decider in this case, it was the side pick that came through for the side of Randy's. And as it stands, well, it's definitely not working in their favor.
Oh! Well, this is going to be fun.
I'm in.
Tachanka being brought out. I think it was... I'll have to check. But, okay, this is not the first time that Randy's have brought Tachanka out. They brought Tachanka when they played on Cafe Dostoevsky versus Enclave in Reading and Fireplace.
I remember how unsuccessful that was.
It didn't, yeah. Well, at first it looked like they were going to set it up in the G2 position. They actually moved it down into utility on the second floor. So they did change their mind on how they're going to play it, and it didn't last very long. So definitely going to, at the very least, hope that they managed to have Tachanka last a little bit longer on this round. Otherwise, you're just going to find yourself in a very quick 4 versus 5. And against a very aggressive team like Fierce, not the position you want to find yourself in.
Absolutely not. So let's see how they choose to employ it. It may well be that they set it up in a particular awkward corner somewhere, ideally on hard flooring. If you're on soft flooring, well, good luck living if someone's shooting you from below. The play looks to be inside a bathroom. So it looks like the focus might be here, getting this cross angle in towards B site as well as onto yellow stairs if that's where he chooses to set things up. Nope, okay, he's abandoned that plan altogether and he's still moving. Penguin, please set up shop somewhere.
Yeah, he was really indecisive in the other round. About, is he gonna set it up in console?
Nope, full move. I think they had the issue where they couldn't quite put it down. He's whatever at this point. He doesn't know what he's doing.
He'll figure it out. Either way, what he wants to be doing is making it very hard for Fierce to be moving down this corridor as they come in from admin. And if he can get some really key angles down there, especially with Western situated up in copy, it'll at the very least very much slow the push coming in from Fierce. And already one member down. That is Prox once again. So that hard breacher is gone. It's going to make it so much harder for them to open up, for example, the meeting room wall. So straight off the bat, Randy's looking like they're in a fairly good position. They've just got to keep it up now.
Not having a fun time so far. Prox blessing. That's 2 rounds in a row. He's been removed inside the first 30 seconds. So I hope he likes the look of other people's drones. I was going to say on the front of the Monty, though. Not the Monty, sorry. The Chanka. The problem you've got here is that if you have someone pushing inside the toilets to the north of him, that wall is entirely soft. Someone can just spray through that window, straight through the wall, and kill him while he's stood on this turret, and he can't cover all the angles. So I have some worry here about how he's choosing to play this one out. Tyrant is going to equal things out, though, finding 2 kills of himself and saying, you know what, guys? You think you're safe. You're never safe when I'm around. At least now balancing things out at 3 versus 2 will be JTC with a knife kill. Oh my god, why did he unscope? I think he was just so instinctively expected to find that kill that he unscoped. Realized he didn't land the shots, and well, we saw the outcome of that one. Tyrant is down to about 1 HP right now. That'll be a nice early swing across from the Mozzie, and that is a round closed out. So for all the attention we gave to the Chanka, his impact there was not really required.
Yeah, it wasn't really all about him, but I think what it did was it allowed the security for the rest of the team to set up in the positions that they were able to work very well. And, you know, at the end, with Tyrant left, you might be the best fragger, the best player in all of Prem right now, but if it's just you against an entire other team, you're probably not in the best position to win that one out. But, you know, they don't need to, Fierce Esports don't need to be too concerned right now. They're still up by, well, they've got three maps, so they're up by 2 rounds. I sound really unsure about my maths there, and that makes me sound incredibly stupid. But they have 3. They don't need to be concerned is the point that I'm making. Shut up.
No, very fair point. You are right. It's a promising spot, although admittedly on something like Conscious, you want to come out of the 4-2, I'd say on the attacking side, it is one of those maps that, as mentioned a number of times, it is attacker-sided. And I think these days the point about maps being attacker-sided and defender-sided is maybe a little bit overdone, a bit overcooked, if you would. But it is a map that does favour the attackers. It's why a lot of teams do choose to start there on this map more than any other, even ahead of things like Coastline in this case, which used to be the leader in terms of attacker-sided starts. But once again, we're going to see the Chanka deployed by Penguin. Yet to find himself a kill at all. Clearly thinks if I get a bigger gun, surely there will be some heads in my sightline that I can click on at some point with this massive turret. Excured, equally, a bit fed up of dying so often, 1 and 4 so far, is going to bring along the clash.
I was wondering if this is what they were going to do. Have Tachanka out in a more open area and have the clash situated right in front of him so that it's a lot harder to kill. And that's exactly what it looks like they're doing. They're having him right in front of the front door so that Excured can just stand straight in front of him, protect him from being harmed, and he can just rain in damage, rain in those bullets. They've just got to hope that Fierce actually come round that way, because right now they're all up in the northwest side of the map, and doesn't look like they're at a huge risk of being Tachankered right now.
Very cool use that they've got it deployed here on the desk as well, so it's just high enough that essentially the clash is functioning on the table, sorry, not the desk. She's essentially functioning as that lowercase deployable shield, and he's raised just above the head. It is a really nice hold that is very, very tough to unseat, but needs to be so careful here, because if he steps away like that for even more than a couple of seconds, chances are someone can run in and just spray the hell out of the legs of that Chanka.
Yeah, that's really what you're going to be careful of, is his precious feet. The rest of him, he's basically a huge tank, but you don't want to hurt the man's feet, because he will go down. Or maybe you do want to hurt the man's feet if you want to win the round. Either way, Kayak making this interesting, sneaky rotation down through the bottom. He's going to be sneaking up through behind him. And if he can get these shots, especially onto the Tachanka, this entire strategy from Randy's is going to go down. There we go, straight on him with the headshot. And that's going to make life very hard. He will be falling, but the plan from Randy's isn't going to work.
They have managed to at least explode that part wide open, but there is still a round to press on, and Win and Execure is going to say, you know what, we don't need a Chanka once again. It's all a ruse. It's all a bait, some might say. Now they're finding themselves into a spot where it's 2 versus 2, and Reese, one of the big fraggers left for his side, is the last man left alive in a 1 versus 2. The worst of all is that you're against a Clash. She is so difficult to beat one-on-one. Well, 1 versus 2 in this case. Maybe 1 versus 1, you've got a chance of being able to grenade her, or at least melee her shield out of the way. But once you've got the backup here, like they're doing right now, playing sensibly and playing together, this makes it so difficult for them to do anything with.
Yeah, with this Jaeger, especially of all the operators it could be, the guy designed to be able to be a very good fragging operator. It's going to make it so much harder. Yes, he can try and... I don't know, I was going to say use his air jabs, but he's used them all. All he can do is try and make a rotation here, but the likelihood of him being able to win this out, probably relatively low. And Randy's don't need to be in all that much of a rush. They can play this very leisurely. We've got the Clash coming right up onto Reese. He does manage to Wesson. He can get aggressive, going for the feet. It's not enough just yet, but it's not over here for Fierce.
Doing what he can here, but look, just constantly running him down here as well. The small damage comes through. He's going to have to get the gun out at some point. That's exactly what he's going to go for right now. Does try and go for a pre-fire spray, but Fierce win the round all the same. What a play by Reese, and celebration with the spin as we'd expect.
Spin.
It is. That is the Reese special. Beautiful 1 versus 2 there to close things out. Played almost expertly.
I mean, yeah, he was in a difficult position, because at that point you think, oh man, not only am I going against the Clash, but the Jaeger's there as well. And the fact he was able to bring down the Jaeger, that was where we literally saw his pace change so quickly. He just ran at the Clash, and it's at that point that you really try and go for it. And so Fierce are going to be very happy that they were able to take that one. And it was a fun attempt at a strat there from Randy's. It didn't work out for them after Kayak did make that rotation. They didn't have anyone watching that to ensure it didn't happen. It was a bit cheesy. It didn't work. So now we move on to something arguably also cheesy, as they're going to be bringing out the Cav, which you don't see a lot in top play. Well, I was going to say you might see a lot in rank, but she always gets banned out in rank.
Yeah, it's
Bomb located by attackers.
It's a questionable one. That's pretty fair to say. Obviously, high risk, high reward. If you do manage to find an interrogate, you remove all the wind out of the sails of the attackers for a good 5 seconds. And even then some, because you can't afford to move freely anymore, because the defenders regain all their ground. It's a really good way of basically moving the front line back, or at the very least, if you are going to stay and contest it, it's at great risk in doing so. Now, they will no doubt should be able to at least get this one droned out and find out where he is. It's a case then of how they deal with it. Right now, it seems to be hiding away quite a bit downstairs, so maybe he hasn't been caught out on the drones just yet. But Penguin, like I said earlier on, tried Chanka 2 rounds in a row, still has yet to find a kill. Is he the right guy for the job?
Attacker's objective is
well,
to defuse the bomb.
we will find out. He's moved on upstairs now. And just opening up the floor. He obviously, as you say, doesn't want to be caught out too early. You don't want... They don't want Fierce to know that he's there. This guy has got to be their sort of surprise that they can whip out. He's just here holding on to yellow stairs. There is the pest there, right there too. That will mean that he's not going to be able to be droned out, but he's hoping to be able to get that early kill and early run out. But it looks like no one's going to be there, and instead Western and Tyrant are going to be the first 2 to fall elsewhere on the map.
Penguin's waiting here. He's just waiting. He knows that someone is going to be on that window, but the problem is you're going to be looking towards things like air jabs here that should be on this window and placed just in time on the door, I should have said. Now that he knows, though, you can probably be able to get rid of this quite easily. Oh, no, they know that he's there. Almost get himself taken down to just over 20 HP. And that will once again be this Cav, or at least Penguin, being put to no use in these rounds.
I was just thinking, don't allow yourself to become distracted, because there is someone there, but right now... we're just seeing if the Vigil executed here can get that shot. He's going to be moving downstairs. protecting himself, but Keenan is not going to be protected as he falls. Now finding himself in the 1v1, he is able to get the kill there with the SMG-12. Switches on back to the K1A after Shermie falls. Prox following as well. That means we are in this 2v2 situation, but Penguin on the Cav is very, very low health, and there's only so much he's going to be able to do. He's right next to the diffuser, though.
He is, but it's really down to what they can manage to achieve here. I think it's a 2. Yes, it's a 2 versus 2, but the full health, the bigger guns on the side of Fierce right now, and all the time in the world to play around just goes in their favor. Reese, once again, having a game today so far, finds that penultimate kill. All down to Execure now on the Vigil to make something happen, and you're potentially contesting with some of the air jabs that remain being popped inside. Now, most of them should have been used outside on windows and potential jump out opportunities for the defenders, but you've got the angle here. It's a 2 versus 1, and that wonderful grenade comes through, almost gets the kill, but not quite to be the case. I was going to say the fact that it's a 2 versus 1 here, they could just play for the trade, and this round is theirs. They have the diffuser, can choose to go for it if they want. And I've got to say, shout out to Reese, 9 kills so far here as well, almost 2 per round. He will get himself brought down. Why aren't they playing here for the refrag? Not that it matters, because he steps around the corner, even with the reload going off, as you say, Gio. And Kayak, your man for the match to watch, well, steps up big for them and closes out round number 6. 5-1 to Fierce.
That was, again, we said it at the beginning of the round. It was a risky attempt. I don't think that the Cav really brought all that much to the team. I think the Vigil wasn't, too bad. I think at the end he was running a little bit low on information. So the fact that he was even able to get one of those kills was actually quite impressive. But at this point, they're trying a lot of different things here. This time they're going to be bringing the Kali. Hate playing Kali because I can't play bolt action. All right, they're going to be bringing the Amaru instead. Never mind. I'm just thinking of times I've played the Kali and just been terrible, and I'm getting war flashbacks. But, instead, Penguin's going to be sitting there on the Amaru as the half switches over.
And defuse bombs.
Just staying in a pretty comfortable spot, mind you. I think Fierce will be very happy with how that first half went. 4-2. Coming out of that, you'd feel was a healthy half still. 5-1, even better. And there is work to do, no doubt, here on the side of Randy's. They go on to the attack. And Penguin is sticking to the theme of weird and wonderful operators today, it would appear. Amaru being brought alongside with the Ash. Got the Nomad there for the jump outs as well. So to me, sorry for the jump outs, more for the charge-ins, I should say. And JTC on 9 kills, matching up towards someone like Reese here, could be a really big force for them. So this to me just screams typical Randy's play fast and hit them hard.
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about it before, but this is a team who don't really scrim, so they're not going to be playing for strategy so much, which is why kind of these strats that they have been going for have been a little bit two-dimensional and a little bit more experimental, and that's fine. There's nothing really wrong with that, but they might as well at least be going for the aggression if they know that's where they can hold themselves up. But so far, not going all that well. Absolutely no droning, nothing to suggest that that was going to be a safe option, and Shermie able to just get that kill so quickly. Tyrant's going to be falling very early, though, which is definitely going to be a boon here to Randy's, as they no longer have him to deal with. Reese as well. Execured just looking to see who else, what other prey is nearby, but he will be falling in the process.
Isn't really the best situation now, where they're finding themselves 2 men down already in this situation for Randy's, where admittedly 2 minutes, about a minute or so in, it's not the worst. You've still got a couple left alive, but the Amaru's gone, as you probably would have expected. She's always the first in and normally the first to die. That Thatcher being gone now means that the strength almost and the increase of the Echo and the Mozzie is going to be so much more exponential. The intel denial potentially coming through. The fact they have an Echo on the board and no way of dealing with it, that is going to be the thing that could really come back to hurt them later into this round. Of course, if bullets don't hurt more. Prox will find one onto JTC. Again, the top fragger coming in so far for the side of Randy's. That is a very potent threat removed from their side, now into a 3 versus 2.
Now, just having a look at some of these cameras, get an idea of where everybody is, as Randy's are going to have to start making a push once again. Not much movement going on. Weston and Keenan both hanging around here in the copy room, just firing in the X-Kairos, but not going to last too long. So they're just going to try and hold these angles for now, but there's only so much time you can do this for. There's 3 members on the enemy team left. You're going to have to make a move at some point.
They absolutely are stepping in, trying to find something to try and hold on to hope here in this match. I did think today this would be the game that would be the closest of the 3. as it stands so far, Fierce are the ones really driving a wedge into that thought process and saying, you know what, nah, it's just like all the other games. It's going to be an absolute stomp in our favor. That's the way that it's slowly starting to lead. And you can see now they're trying to find some kind of angle here from the east side admin, mainly the point of ingress for them. Shermy even trying to creep his way around will find his way into an air jab there, but now back behind the shield is in a comfortable spot. Why they aren't necessarily trying to play for these refrags, I'm not entirely sure, but Western finds a kill for them. And, well, Fierce, let's be careful not to let this one slip. Into a 2 versus 2. Shermy finds another one now. This should be it coming back their side. One left alive. He's also got a ping on him. There is no way he should be able to walk out of this one alive. Walking in close range, lay down on the ground. It's Shermy. And Fierce at the very least secure themselves a draw as they push in towards victory here. One more round to go. And it will be arguably the most dominant victory of the evening if they do so.
Direct side there onto the diffuser at the end. Made that very hard, really, for Randy to be able to do that. But I kind of want to go back to before this game even happened. We were talking about the people to be looking out for. I want to call out Shermy. He's been doing pretty well. He's been getting some really key kills. He got the first kill in the entire series so far, and he's been very consistent. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying seeing what he is doing for Fierce Esports, because he's not someone who's been here for the whole season, and yet he seems to be meshing pretty well.
Doing the job. I think it's pretty fair to say as a player, if you're clicking on heads, then you're doing your job pretty well, amongst obviously other things being part of the job. So, the final charade, the final chance coming through now for the side of Randy's. It's been a rough game so far, but they're going to pin everything in these final few picks. Keenan this time around playing something a little bit different, is going to sneak his way across onto playing the Nook. They've also got the Ying on side alongside the Dukabi and the Lion. Yeah. So this is screaming to me aggressive, push in, flash them out, just like we saw from Randy's earlier on. It hasn't been successful so far playing this very get in fast and get kills fast style. They're really doubling down on that effort this time round. Yeah, they want to be using Keenan to kind of take them by surprise, but using XQ and JTC on the Dokkaebi and the Lion to be able to get as much info as possible, prevent Fierce from moving, or if they do start moving, they'll know everything about where they are, and that should give them the advantage when it comes to taking those fights. Now, of course, going to be looking for players like Reese and Tyrant, both of whom are, well, Kayak as well, actually, in fact, all of whom are going to be running the C4, so potentially see a lot of that projectile play as well as the gunplay that so far has been working out so well for Fierce. But if they're expecting an aggressive attack, they need to be putting up an aggressive defense too. Absolutely doing. This rush is coming straight through. They're pulling everything out the stops here as well. They've already lost 2. Western is in response trying to find 1, but everything is coming up blue right now in the kill feed. Fierce find 4. Keenan is left alive on his own. He's going to find something from this one as well. Finds the second. Can he get the next one as well? No, he cannot. The attempt was made. The rush came through, but Fierce were clearly far more prepared, and they will take the map 7-1. What a dominant performance from the Hopefuls trying to take those first 2 spots in the ESL Premiership.
At that point, they knew it wasn't in their favor, so they might as well try something. If anything, Randy's will have learned about these different strategies, about these comps, about these different attempts that they made today, and they'll be able to take that forward into the games that they play tomorrow and in the future.
It's a really promising sign, I think, even for Shermy there as well. Brilliant game coming through from him. I said the Tyrant was the guy to watch, and the 6-6 today, a little bit quieter, but Shermy popping off big time. Really good game for them, and I think it's a really positive sign for them coming into something like the playoffs. Let's not forget they only kick off on Saturday. It's really not far away. When they do kick off, it's going to be super interesting to see how Fierce stack up against teams that they've lost to previously.
Yeah. No, I think that they definitely did very well, and there is definitely that chance that we're going to see them go up against other teams that they have played before, and the improvement that they will have experienced over the course of the season will have been monumental. They were that team that in CL Quals didn't do as well as we expected them to. Everyone was a little bit surprised. They didn't do terribly, they didn't do badly, but they didn't do how everyone thought they would, and now they're making up for it here in the ESL Premiership.
My goodness, an amazing game to end us on a high there. A 7-1 scoreline, by far the most dominant performance we've had over the course of the entire evening. And a bit of a belter as well. It was a pretty enjoyable match through and through, wasn't it?
Yeah, I found it really interesting seeing, again, that Fierce have kind of stepped up to a level where I felt they maybe fell from grace a little bit previously. Randy's, as much as they're the team that everyone kind of laughs at and memes on a little bit, they are a team of people that can shoot. That is one thing they can definitely not have taken away from them. So to see a team come out and be so commanding, not just in terms of the kills that they're finding, but in terms of how they're playing the map, that was brilliant from Fierce, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think what I really enjoyed about it was that, yes, it was aggressive, but it was almost a kind of slightly unorthodox aggressive because of the number of different operators that we saw come out from, yes, mostly Randy's, but, you know, we saw Fierce providing their own force in return. And I think, if anything, especially for Randy's, this would have been a really big learning experience purely because of the variety that came out in this game. But yeah, Derry, I'm on the same page as you. Very surprised that this was the most dominant one-sided map that we saw today. We both thought that this was going to be the closest one, but it did show some very entertaining Siege, and that's what I care about.
I mean, there was a couple of rounds that really could have gone either way at that point, down to a pretty close scenario. So obviously, in terms of the scoreline, if you read it just from that, you might not realize just how close it was, even though it was a bit of a blowout, being a 7-1. Definitely some good showings from the Randys. They came in. When they were allowed to get into the house, it was quite scary off the back of the Randy boys.
Yeah, there's opportunities, I think, with all of them. Again, they are fraggers, they can do these things, but when a team kind of takes a moment to breathe, I mean, this last round was a brilliant example on your screens right now. When they go full-on aggression, they're bringing out the Lion, they've got the KB on side, they've got the Ying on you as well. Everything that is throwing at you there is fully intended to stop you from having any kind of composure. The comms will go crazy, but Fierce really calmly responded and reacted. They made sure that they got 4 kills against 1 in the very depth of it. It's just beautiful to see, and like I say, playoffs for me is going to be the really interesting one. I want to see how they face up against teams that they haven't done so well against historically.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be the fun thing, because I feel like it's just such a storied team, especially in the last couple of months and the plight that they've had and what they've been trying to achieve. They have carried a story in terms of not doing as well as they thought they would and trying to prove that they are one of these elite UK-based teams and that do have what it takes to force themselves onto the European stage. And I think the improvement and the proof that they've provided in this season of ESL Prem gives a lot to their credit, and it's definitely it makes people wake up and pay attention to them and think, okay, this is the team that I should be watching out for, and it definitely is.
Yeah, there's also players that you should be looking out for. And let's see who are potential for the Man of the Match poll are, as we do have 3 of them up on screen now. Of course, one of the names we did hear quite a bit through that, Reese, he definitely had some impact, but who are your picks, guys?
Shermie.
Yeah, all the way.
It's not like he's exactly an unknown quantity in Siege. Like, it's a name that's been around a few times. So I think for a lot of people, you probably expect when he's coming in to be doing work today, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. He really took me by surprise in... Not that I was expecting him to be bad, it's just I didn't know enough about him. I didn't know if it was gonna be good for the team that they had this guy who hasn't been with them the whole time, but he was just amazing. He's definitely, I'm gonna dub him the master of the TCSG, because he just had such control over that weapon that people love to call the most inconsistent weapon in the entire game, and he was just very consistent. I think that's the best word to put for him, is he was always able to get those really clutch shots, those really clutch kills that you need in order to ensure that you're going to succeed. So yeah, Shermie, he's got it by far and away.
Wow, a lot of support from Shermie. I think he took work from home far too literally with the amount of damage he was doing. But let's look back, of course, at today's results. A banger of a session tonight. All 3 of the games did provide some interesting moments. One of them was a lot closer than the others, of course, with the Enclave Gaming versus Kavana Gaming. I think that had a lot of the most exciting moments for me. But for you guys, what did you think was the funnest?
Funnest.
Yeah, what really
the
tickled
funnest?
you? What was the most enjoyable?
I think the last match was the most fun for me. Like, it was, even though it was the most one-sided, it was just so much fun to watch. It was so interesting. I loved the aggression. I loved seeing Fierce take advantage of the mistakes Randys were making, because not just were they being aggressive, but it was when Randys were trying to apply strategy, Fierce found the cracks in that, and they were able to take advantage, and I thought that was incredibly entertaining to watch.
It's never a bad thing throwing 2 teams into the pit and then seeing who comes out once all the dust is settled. That's what that last game felt like. I think the first half of the first game was also quite interesting, seeing Audacity put up a little bit of a fight. The scoreline obviously won't reflect it too much, but seeing them give something against Crazy was definitely kind of a good morale booster for them. The second game for me, just a little bit too messy in places there. Too many mistakes being made to really have it be classed as an air quotes entertaining game, but it is what it is.
I thought it was quite fun. It was, enjoyable watching them go toe-to-toe in the middle of a cell. But let's move on and see where everyone is now situated once the dust has settled today. So, we do have some interesting facts off the back of this. Crazy are now confirmed first going forward, as obviously they've been able to rack up a startling 6 wins throughout the season. And we do know that Enclave are not going to be competing next week, so they are confirmed in 7th place at the bottom.
Yes, they have an auto win against Secret, so they won't be playing next week. That's their kind of final standing done. Sadly, that does mean they don't make playoffs this time round, which is unfortunate for them, but I think if you're Audacity here, you're breathing quite a sigh of relief, admittedly.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Audacity they've been trying, they've been putting in the work. They didn't do too terribly today, so I think there's still potential to squeeze some juice out of this team before it's all over for them. But seeing Crazy at the top, I mean, entirely unsurprising. But it's definitely nice to see that Fierce have pulled their way up.
Yeah, Fierce definitely climbing in a fantastic position. But of course, we do have to give mention to the availability for you guys at home to get involved. If you want to try and one day be able to find your way into the Prem, get practicing over in the Open Cups at esl.im/R6UK. That's on Tuesdays on both PC and Xbox One. So plenty of opportunities to get involved. Des, I know you'd compete, but of course, just far too ahead of the skill curve with that gold rank.
I wish I was, mate, but I am hot trash at this game. So as much as I say, shooters are not my jam. Don't be worrying about that. One thing I do need to reiterate really quickly back on the games that we're going to be seeing tomorrow. We're seeing in that second place right now, tied on 15 points, is Fierce and Demise. They play each other tomorrow in the first game. That is going to be huge. Absolutely mega.
That's going to be huge. And just remember to, tweet Sternab what you think about Demise, because he's coaching them now. So just give him either encouragement or a little bit of trash.
Nah, give him stick. Please give him stick.
Yeah, no, I know I will be. Oh no, wait, hold on. Unbiased caster. I mean, I will be being completely neutral and not tweeting anyone.
Correct answer.
Yeah. Well, there is plenty of time for that, of course. Get your memes popping off on Twitter. It's at ESL UK on social. Let us know what you thought of tonight's broadcast, as we will be back tomorrow as well. Same time, same place, same ragtag band of commentators that will be joining me on the desk here, of course. But that is it for tonight's show. It wouldn't have been possible without everyone involved over at ESL UK, though, and of course, the magnificent Desertu and Geo. We do have to give thanks to AOC Gaming that made all of this possible, and I do really hope you've had a nice time tonight. Any final thoughts before we close this one out, guys?
I'm just stoked for tomorrow. It's going to be sick.
That first game is definitely going to be the banging game tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think you've got Crazy versus Randy's, and then you've got Kavana versus Audacity. Equally in itself an interesting game, given Kavana went 7-4 against Enclave today. So in itself, that may yet prove to be yet another upset in that final game. So I'm very much so looking forward to it.
There we go. Everyone is stoked for tomorrow. So for now, get yourself some rest, get prepared, as we'll be back with more Premiership action tomorrow evening.
Seconds to go. These things can take a while.